Public affairs programming on Look TV is underwritten by the generous support of Pinnell's Restaurant, classic Italian American food since 1922, and Stored Tech, technology solutions for computers, networks, and phone. Stored Tech, your technology, our passion.
1922, Babe Ruth debuts with the Yankees. WGY signs on air. Exterminator wins the Saratoga Cup, and Pinnell's Restaurant opens its doors for the very first time. For 5 generations, Pinnell's has been preparing delicious Italian food, served in a comfortable, home-like setting where everyone is welcome. 90 years of authentic Italian recipes, 90 years of the freshest ingredients, and 90 years of the finest classic Italian dishes, all made daily by hand. Pinnell's Italian Restaurant, a Saratoga dining tradition since 1922.
Most cybersecurity firms deal only with prevention, the systems that block hackers and viruses. Stored Tech knows the root cause is actually good people doing bad things. So we offer a security training program which includes certifying all participants to show they understand the basics.
Technology solutions for computers, networks, and phones. Stored Tech, your technology, our passion.
The Saratoga City Council meeting, an inside look at the decisions that affect you and our community.
Okay, at this time, I'd like to call roll call, please.
Commissioner Frank?
Present.
Commissioner Madigan?
Present.
Commissioner Scirocco?
Here.
Commissioner Dalton?
Present.
Mayor Kelly?
Here.
Supervisor Veach?
They will be late this evening.
Okay.
Yep. Thank you. At this time, please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Next on the agenda is our public comment period. I ask that you keep your comments brief, up to 2 minutes. Yielding time to someone else is not allowed. Public comment period will continue for 15 minutes. Please be respectful and address the council as a whole. As a reminder, public comment is not a dialogue or discussion with the council members. However, at the end of the comment period, any council member may respond or comment. Please raise your hand in our Zoom toolbar if you would like to address the council. And please, when we call on you, state your name and your city you live in, and give me your comments. So if you'd like to comment at this time, please raise your hand. Sierra Meyer, please unmute. Thank you. And unmute.
Hi, I'm Kira Meyer. I'm a Saratoga Springs High School sophomore. I live at 94 State Street. I'm here to show support for public space recycling in the downtown area. I've had the pleasure of speaking with some of the commissioners in regard to this issue before, and I'm hoping that my support will encourage you all to help push for including the installation of downtown recycling bins in the 2022 budget. The benefits of recycling are clear. It demonstrates a commitment to sustainability for visitors and residents. It curbs pollution and littering and has strong bipartisan support. However, there are some concerns I'm hoping to address and combat. First is contamination or improper use of bins. This is an issue. However, there are simple measures that can be taken to curb contamination. Simple, clear labeling and signage, placing recycling and trash bins side by side, and placing bins in highly trafficked areas are all proven strategies in reducing contamination. Public education also helps curb contamination. And as our schools and many local businesses, as well as other cities around the country, already have strong recycling programs, it's likely that many visitors to the downtown area are already well-versed in how to recycle properly. The second concern I'd like to address is cost. I would like to emphasize that this is a one-time investment. And though I know budgets are probably tight due to the COVID crisis, this is an issue long overdue and well worth investing in. In addition, the people who currently collect the trash downtown could likely pick up recycling as well. There's no need to reinvent the wheel. We can keep using the same collection process. And we are looking into probably using compostable bags that would make it easier to differentiate between recycling and trash. Overall, I'm just hoping that my support encourages you all to include the installation of 28 recycling bins in the downtown area in the 2022 budget. Cost and contamination are concerns, but they're not sufficient to diminish the benefits of public space recycling. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Anybody else like to comment this evening? Jade, can you unmute and turn your video on? Great, yeah. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Jay Dalal. I'm a sophomore and resident of Saratoga Springs. I'm here to help advocate for public space recycling in the downtown Saratoga area. Hopefully, my message will push for the installment of 28 downtown recycling bins in the 2022 budget. I was born in France and I lived in Germany before living here. We had similar recycling bins like the ones I'm advocating for today. In Germany, not only did we have these bins, but we were also taught in school how to properly recycle. Things like rinsing out a yogurt cup before throwing it out, and we were even taught how to make our own paper. I was surprised when I moved here and there was no recycling system like the ones I had before, especially since Saratoga has such a great reputation. Recycling is a big part of my life, and I know it's a huge part of others too. I have seen firsthand how the installation of these bins do a great deal for the environment. Tossing out waste that is not biodegradable in landfills where it cannot properly decompose wastes a tremendous amount of landfill space. To give you an idea, a glass bottle takes approximately 4,000 years to decompose. We would also be reducing the emissions of greenhouse gases. Recycling would mean saving or constantly diminishing natural resources. This would also be a significant step for reducing and preventing air and water pollution. In fact, just one glass bottle would mean 20% reduction in air pollution and 50% reduction in water pollution compared to making the bottle from raw materials. We would also be saving energy. All of these things would help us lower our carbon footprint. The Earth is currently undergoing a global climate change crisis, and it is our job to help in any way we can. We need to make sure that the Earth is around and well for generations to come. Adding these bins would be a great way for us to contribute in saving our Earth. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Jade. Anyone else? Let's say Maddie Cook.
Hi, my name is Maddie Cook and I live in Saratoga Springs, and I'm a Saratoga Springs high school sophomore. I'm here to voice my support for public space recycling in the downtown area. I'm hoping that my support will encourage you all to help push for including the installation of 28 downtown recycling bins in the 2022 budget. I believe that the installation of the bins downtown would demonstrate to our tourists how much we care about sustainability. In many other cities, such as Tuscaloosa and New York City, public space recycling is provided in areas with high foot traffic. Recycling is becoming an expectation in downtown areas, and Saratoga has the opportunity to step up the plate now and become a more clean and green destination. It has been proven that communities that provide recycling in public spaces have less litter than those with just trash. And given Saratoga's reputation for being a beautiful and cleanly place, we should be prioritizing and maintaining that reputation by providing recycling downtown. In addition, our current trash bins in the downtown area appear to be nearing the end of their days. On a walk the other day, I noticed the bins with graffiti stickers and shoelaces covering their sides. I know that the cost of new bins would be daunting, however, the purchase would be a one-time investment and a worthy one at that. Investing in new recycling bins would make our downtown more beautiful for our visitors and residents and would prevent future littering in our community. I hope that you consider supporting including the cost of 28 recycling bins in the 2022 budget. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Maddie. Anyone else? This is public comment period. Does anybody else want to comment for public comment period?
Yes, I'm unable to raise my hand on the Zoom. Am I able to speak?
Is that John?
Yes.
John, could you just unmute? You were unmuted. Can you put your video on, please?
There we go. Hi there. That's it. I'm not actually on Mars. I'm here in Saratoga Springs. Hi, I'm John Jacopone. I'm a member of the Marion Ave, Maple Ave, Maple Dell Neighborhood Association. My wife and I are daily users of the Spring Run Trail, and I'm not gonna speak about recycling, although I support that. DPW does a great job mowing, snow plowing, etc. But we've noticed that over the last year, there's been some degradation of things like fences, erosion on that trail, et cetera. So just a simple request to see if there's any discretionary funding in the mayor's budget or somewhere to do some rehabilitation of things like fences,
fix some of the drainage, et cetera, on that spring run trail. It's a fantastic asset, but it's 5-10 years long in the tooth right now, and could use a refresh. Could also be a great Boy Scout project if city could donate or find a way to get some materials donated, or a community project. We in the neighborhood and others in Spring Run Trail, friends, happy to pitch in labor. So.
Great, thank you. Anyone else like to speak for public comment period? Lucia?
Hello, my name is Lucia Cuccinella, and I am a senior at the Saratoga High School, as well as a freshman at SUNY Adirondack. I am also coming to show support for the inclusion of 28 bins in the budget for the next year. Not only do I feel, of course, there are many benefits to having them as a city just be greener, but I also fear that we are slowly undoing our reputation as being a beautiful, historic, and clean city, and effectively burying our area in plastic and putting on, to say, like a bad face for other places that were known as being a very beautiful, very clean, very historic place. And I feel this, I know, has been an effort that's been going on for a long time, but the farther it's pushed out, the harder and harder it will be to reverse, and the more damage we're doing not only to our area as a city, but also our reputation. So I was hoping, again, I could help to convince you guys to make more space in the budget for it. Thank you.
Thank you, Lucia. Anyone else? Public comment period. Anybody else on here to speak at public comment? You see anybody, Lisa? Okay. Is there anybody on here that can't raise their hand and they want to speak? Turn your video on so we could see you. Okay, then at this time, I'm going to close. Any comments from the council?
I have some comments, Mayor.
Sure.
I want to thank the students from the local Saratoga Springs High School for their excellent advocacy of public space recycling in our downtown. I'm fully supportive of this. I've done a little bit more extensive research on this, and it can be both a capital budget item and a general operating, expense item. So I know the mayor has an announcement on her agenda for this evening to talk about the capital budget process and how it's going to begin. So this is something that could be discussed as a capital budget item for 2022. I also came across and emailed a few students, and I know my deputy Deirdre Ladd and Wendy Mahaney with Sustainable Saratoga. I knew that when I was first elected, I was really pushing for public space recycling, and I've had a problem or issues trying to find the article, but I finally found it today, and it's dated March 5th, 2012. It's in the Daily Gazette. And one of the things that I said was that I was very impressed with the recycling program at Lake Avenue Elementary School, because they had started up this huge recycling program, and that I wanted to do the same thing in the city. So you definitely have at least one member of the city council who is incredibly supportive of this. And we, thank you for your advocacy to the students.
Any other comments?
I would love to actually add something as well. I just wanted to thank the students for speaking up. You beautifully articulated your case. It was really impressive. It's one of the first things I observed about downtown Saratoga was that there were no recycling bins, but it wasn't something I've acted on. So kudos to you guys for getting together and speaking up. And I know that I'm supportive of this effort, and I hope it's something we can get done. So thank you all.
Yeah, I'd like to thank them too. It's really, for me, it's quite fun to see these students come out here and public speak. They were in theater, my theater, when they were younger, and I just love to see that because their voices are being heard. But I too support, recycling, but we are in a budget crunch, and I'd like to comment on the Spring Run Trail to John, saying that, I do not have any money in my budget, but I think putting stuff like this into the 2020, and we'll see how it goes. We have to get through this year because we're on a tight budget. And I think that, everybody can understand that, but I do know that the Spring Run Trail and the recycle bins have to be, taken care of and at least put the bins in so we can get going. But we need money, and, we have priorities, and we have to set those priorities. So that's where the city is at right now, as far as Meg Kelly is, concerned. Any other comments from the council?
I had one about the Spring Run Trail. I know that local service groups like the Saratoga Springs Lions Club and the Rotarians and the Boy Scouts have several times volunteered to clean up the trail. But it's probably, they've shown up to clean the trail, but they need the proper tools. So that might be something we could work on and partner with some of the different service organizations, meet them and supply the proper tools and bagging and, clean up some litter and clean up the trails going forward with some of those groups. The person who made that comment, mentioned maybe getting some volunteers actually out there to help clean up. And they get service credits for doing that kind of work, particularly the Boy Scouts.
Mm-hmm. Any other comments?
Yeah, Mayor, I'd like to comment.
Sure.
I too would like to thank the students. I, in fact, met with them, and it was a very good meeting. And I want to commend them on their concern for the environment. But I can tell you, obviously, you pretty much said it. It comes down to money, and I know the bins are. We had back. I'm going to say real quick. We had probably in 2011 or 12. We had put 4 recycling bins on Broadway. I mean, I still have those bins, and my intention was to put them back out there. And that's before single stream. And we were looking for a place to put them, and I think I'm going to stick them in the park. We were talking about that for Earth Day. But having said that, I think it's a good idea. The bins on Broadway are starting to get beat up pretty good. So yeah, it's time to replace them. We do partner with the Special Assessment District to actually buy them. Maybe we could partner with them to get some money from them and then some money from one of the budgets. But 28 recycling bins, you're probably looking at probably close to $30,000. But again, it is a one-time investment. And I certainly would support any, something like that. And again, I want to thank the students for their concern for the environment. The other piece, I think it was John that spoke in regards to Spring Run Trail. Spring Run Trail he's right. Spring Run Trail is a gorgeous trail. It's just down the street from me. And every year, every time we have these trails, and we're looking at another trail, which is Geyser Road Trail. We got 9 miles of trails in the city. We put in in our budget, DPW's budget, people to actually be trail people to go in and work and clean up the trails and that sort of thing. Got taken out of the budget. And again, for obvious reasons, we were in a pandemic, money was short. We actually were faced with layoffs. Hopefully this next year we can include that back into the budget, and I'd like to see support for that. Again, we got all the trails, Railroad Run, Spring Run, now Geyser Road Trail, Bog Meadow Trail. There's a lot of trails in the city, and really, there's really nobody to take care of them. So I would certainly include that in my 2022 budget, and hopefully we can get some support for that, and it'll make it happen. In the meantime, I can have the guys take a ride out there and take a look at it and see if they can't, clean it up. The other piece is, and I think somebody mentioned the fact that there's groups that go out and do it. I know the Lions Club is looking for a project, and we're in the process of, working with them. It would be nice if we could get some of the residents to form a little committee. I know they walk it a lot. We're friends of certain trails. That would work out really well. We certainly would put a receptacle there so they could, put the stuff into a receptacle, or maybe just leave the bags there and we would pick up the bags. It would be a big help for us. And there's people that walk it every single day that, look for that kind of stuff. Our guys just don't have the people or the time to do it every single day. But that would be something I think would be it'd be good for. Yeah,
I think that's a great idea. Friends of a Trail. I think
Yes.
that's a great thing to see if we can start, maybe rallying that.
Mm-hmm.
And then, they have a couple of cleanup days a year or whatever, once a month, and you could just pick up the stuff. I think that would be really helpful.
So Commissioner Scirocco is right, just for people who are concerned about the state of the trail. When we finalized and adopted the 2020 budget, we did include a trail maintenance team. We were going to go out and hire some people to start maintaining our trails. And it was one of the first things cut because pretty early on in 2020, COVID hit. So, it is my hope that at some point, because the city will rebound, that all of those items that, we were looking so forward to, growing the city, growing the department, making sure we could take care of our trails, through all the different weather and seasons we have, will absolutely start to make its way back into the budget as things improve.
Great.
Mayor, I'd just like to piggyback on what Commissioner Madigan said earlier, because I remember early on when she was in office about the recycling bins, and I go up to Maine a couple times a year, and in Maine what they have is they have the recycling bins that are, and I saw the emails from the high school students, but what you see pretty prevalent through Maine is solar powered recyclable bins. So they actually, you'll say we're glass or plastic, and it actually compacts it all. You see that all through Maine. I think I had sent her pictures of that probably about 5-6 years ago. Time goes by quickly. So, on that end, I think it's a great, also relating to the trails and whatever, I think, donated labor. And I'd also reach out to, Wally Allardyce and a couple of our hardware stores to see if we can get, whether it's fencing or other materials, if they would be willing to maybe donate, or go to the Adirondack Trust. They have a donation system. Maybe these trails, we could reach out for some of that, for some of the materials also, till we get through this bump in the road.
Great. Okay, all sounds good. Thank you, Council. Moving on to our presentations this evening. The final draft documents of the UDO have been published to the city website, including the maps. At the first meeting in May, I will ask the council to determine merit for review and request advisory opinions from the city and county planning boards and design review commission. During the coming week, additional opportunities for discussion of the final draft will be scheduled for the council and for the public. There is a public comment link on the UDO webpage on our website. Camaros is joining us tonight to present a summary of the major changes that are reflected in this final draft. Camaros and the project team will also be available this week for the following presentations: April 21st at 2 p.m., April 22nd at 9:30 a.m., and those are both public presentations with Q&As. And April 22nd at 6 p.m., the City Land Use Board's presentation. Now I will turn it over to Arista and Chris, who are on this call with us tonight to go over the final draft. Thank you.
Mayor, if it's all right, before you do, I was going to just provide a little.
Sure, go ahead, Vince.
But as you indicated, we're going to have a presentation this evening by Arista and Chris from Camaros on draft 3 of the UDO, or Unified Development Ordinance. They are going to summarize the document and indicate changes that have been made from draft 2. But before we do, I want to just provide a little bit of background on what we're doing and the steps that we have taken to get to this point. As articulated in New York General City Law, the authority to undertake comprehensive planning and to regulate land use are among the most important powers and duties granted to a city government. The City Council most recently undertook efforts at comprehensive planning through the establishment of a comprehensive plan committee back in 2013. That committee initiated a review and proposed updates to the city's then existing 2001 comprehensive plan. Following their extensive review, which spanned more than a year and a half, the committee forwarded a draft plan, future land use map, and proposed amendments to the City Council, who, after conducting its own review, holding public workshops, receiving advisory opinions, conducting public hearings, and undertaking the required seeker environmental analysis, adopted the comprehensive plan on June 16, 2015. Once the comprehensive plan was adopted, the city was required under state law to review its land use regulations to ensure that they are in accord with the adopted plan. In that regard, the city had also received a grant from NYSERDA to update and unify all land use regulations, including the zoning ordinance, subdivision regulations, and standard construction details, and to incorporate components from the city's open space master plan, complete streets policy, and urban community forest master plan into a single coordinated unified development ordinance, all in accordance with the comprehensive plan. The city initially retained a consultant back in September of 2015 who worked with a technical review advisory committee for more than 2 years, but was ultimately unable to complete its work. the council voted to terminate the contract with the prior consultant back on January 2nd, 2018, and on August 7th of that year voted unanimously to authorize a contract with Camiros to develop the UDO. While development of the ordinance progressed, and in an effort to align the city's zoning with the comprehensive plan, Camiros presented an initial amendment to the zoning map back on March 12th, 2019, which included 18 designated zoning changes. The City Council voted to approve the zoning map changes on December 23rd, 2019, after reviewing the required advisory opinions from the city and county planning boards, conducting public hearings, and seeker environmental review. On January 7th, 2020, Draft 1 of the UDO was released to the public and presented to the City Council. Camiros also provided a number of presentations of the draft to the public as well as the DRC and the Planning Board. Multiple Q&A sessions were also held by city staff in an effort to provide the public with an opportunity to discuss the UDO, ask questions, and provide input. Public comment remained open from January 7th through February 21st, and as has been discussed at prior meetings, directly influenced Draft 2, which was released to the public on September 16th of last year. Like Draft 1, Draft 2 was also presented by Camiros to the City Council, the DRC, the Planning Board, and the public on multiple occasions. 5 separate Q&A sessions were again provided between October 22nd and November 18th, both virtually and in person, and city staff met with any and all individuals or groups who requested it in a continuing effort to provide the public with the opportunity to participate in the process. Public comment remained open from September 16th through December 11th, 2020, and we ultimately received in excess of 180 comments. All comments, suggestions, and input received from the public have been taken seriously and were thoroughly discussed and deliberated as we progressed toward developing Draft 3, which brings us where we are today, and which Arista and Chris, without any further ado, will now present.
Thank you, Vince. I have one comment to say that the registration link for the Zoom meetings with about the UDO are on our city website. I just want to make sure everybody knew that. Go ahead, Arista.
Okay, well, thank you all for having me this evening. Let me get my screen up. And can everybody see the document?
Yes.
Okay, great. Well, thank you all for having us here this evening to present Draft 3 of the UDO, the April 2021 draft. And a lot of these slides will probably, and the content will probably look familiar to you, which is really kind of a good thing because we're really getting down into kind of refinement of the details that's happening. So it's a good sign as these presentations become a little bit more streamlined as we head towards kind of the end goal of this. All right, let me make sure this works. Like Draft 2.0 from September 2020, this is a red line document. So we show major deletions and strike throughs. We show new additions in the blue underline. Those of you who use Word are familiar with this. There are some minor non-substantive changes that might not be shown, things like typos, grammar, any numbering corrections that we had to make. When the illustrations are modified to match the text, we don't show that in redline. So, you know, we're still kind of making cleanups to make sure it reads well, but, you know, those that aren't substantive are likely not shown. Again, the goal, and I think Vince covered a lot of this already, so I won't go through it in detail. It's really the goals of this update are implementing the comprehensive plan kind of first and foremost, as well as a number of other plans that are part of this. And you'll see I didn't edit the slide. We even added in the historic preservation document that's also part of this as well. Again, organizing it to be more user-friendly, building in more abilities to do things by right, enhancing neighborhood character, improving conformance, creating a more predictable development environment. These are all the goals that we've been working toward in all of these different drafts. Again, the comprehensive plan is one of the main documents that informs, how the ordinance should be shaped. And you see a lot of these, again, they repeat from our goals, but these are our objectives: mixed use development, more interaction between the different elements that make up a city, community character, protecting environmental resources, looking at multimodal options. These are all things that we're working towards from the comprehensive plan specifically. Many of you are familiar, as we've talked about many times, the use structure was updated. We did continue to use that general use approach. We have definitions, we have standards, but perhaps our biggest change is moving into just this new use matrix that you see here. This is the way that this looks now. This is from draft 3, really just showing you the two ways into the use structure, whether I be in a district and I want to know what I can do, or whether I'm a use and I want to know I'm a use and I want to know what districts I can go into. The major changes you'll see here in draft 3.0, relatively minor for what's going on in the uses. In particular, in the Gateway Commercial R district, the rural, you'll see some of the more intensive commercial uses were removed. And as you looked in that use table, you'll see a number that were either permitted or special were removed with strikeout. So they would no longer be allowed within that district. We clarified certain use standards, making it clear that a bed and breakfast is a conversion of a single family or two family dwelling into that B&B. Looked at the historic carriage house, barn dwellings, prohibiting expansions of those once that use has been allowed. Where the secondary dwelling related to that historic carriage house, where that can be located in relation to the principal building. Requiring parks and playgrounds when they're not a special use to require administrative site plan review because they can bring a lot of people into the neighborhoods and we want to make sure they're done correctly. Clarified and specified medium rooming houses require site plan review. And then we did some updates to the solar and wind provisions, those greater than 25 megawatts. Those required the review and a permit from the Office of Renewable Energy Siting. So that was a state update that happened in between draft 2.0 and 3.0, and we just created an alignment. The residential districts, really as you look through these, just some minor clarifications to how these are applied, but no significant substantive changes to the structure or many of the provisions. As we said before, the current UR5 and UR7 have been eliminated. You'll see some new regulations, new to the UDO as a whole, but not new from draft 2.0. These were in draft 2.0. The maximum impervious surface, first floor elevations, and corner side setbacks. As we talked about in draft 2.0, just to reassure everyone, in draft 2.0, we reverted UR1 through UR4 back to their original standards. We've maintained that in this current draft, that we have reduced the building height to 40 feet and clarified some of the language regarding front setback averaging and how that is allowed. The mixed use and commercial districts, the structure stays the same. This is what you saw again in the previous drafts. It's been the same for a couple of iterations at this point. You can see it's divided again, the residential mixed use districts, commercial mixed use districts, which is really the T5, T6. Commercial districts, which is the office medical, water related, and then the gateway districts, the GCU, the gateway urban, and the gateway rural. And again, the one major change to gateway rural was removal of permissions for some of the commercial uses that were previously allowed in draft 2.0. Again, the public civic space requirement remains there since we've cleaned it all up in draft 3.0. It's, I think, a little bit easier for people to read. Really, the only change we made here was to make sure that we, as part of the things that can be done to meet this requirement, providing for trail access is specifically allowed as one of those things. So standards for how it should be designed, the amount of it, those have remained the same. We've just clearly specified trail access. The institutional districts have remained as they are. You have educational, horse track, municipal, parkland, and recreation. So those are essentially carried over the same from 2.0. In addition, also the industrial districts, the light industrial, which had brought in the current warehouse district, the general industrial, and the industrial extraction district. Again, the same as what you saw in 2.0. Within the special purpose districts, again, it's the same set. What we did was clarify in the water protection overlay district, It used to be, as you see there underlined with the 50, it's 100 linear feet of lands and waters identified as Class 1, Class 2 freshwater wetlands by the commissioner of the NYSDC, or, and this is where the change was made, or within 50 linear feet of federal wetlands. It changed from 100 linear feet. The floodplain remains a reference to the city code. Historic review and architectural review, again, the two processes have been combined into one overlay, but the two processes maintain their distinct identities within those. Some development standards that were found within there, we've clarified that, steep slope preservation, and that, when even a single family or two families, really this provision here, is building in a steep slope area, that they would require site plan review. Done some, clarified many of the exterior lighting requirements, nothing significantly substantive change there. It's more organizational, the changes you'll see in there. And then finally, the newest thing that we added to address this is the site triangle. So basically maintaining that area. This is currently what was essentially in place now in the way that the city takes care of that visibility triangle. What we wanted to address were lots that didn't do that complete 90 degrees. So you see here, if it's 80 degrees or less, the distance increases so that we can maintain that area of vision. So this is really the refinement, this second drawing here at 45 feet, that really shows you how this is applied on more odd shaped lots located at the intersection of streets. Again, the full range of common structures, everything from fences to private horse stables, sustainable structures such as EV charging, home occupations, all of these have been carried over from draft 2.0. And then you'll see, again, permitted encroachments. This has remained the same, but just to remind everybody, kind of the end of that chapter 9 kind of shows things that can encroach into required setbacks. In terms of parking, some bigger changes were done in draft 2.0, where we added more bike parking requirements. Here we've looked at more in draft 3.0. We've accepted those changes and started to look at kind of a couple of things that we needed to tweak within here. One of the ones was previously in 2.0, parks and playgrounds did not have a parking requirement associated with them. And then upon discussion and understanding kind of the impacts of what happens with parks and areas, kind of came to the compromise that parking would be required for parks that are 1 or more acres in size. We looked at electric vehicle spaces, and when we looked at parking lots that have 30 or more spaces as part of them, that either 5% of the required spaces be EV capable or EV ready, or alternately, you can do 2% of those spaces as EV, electric vehicle, installed. And then we made a definition, those terms you see here, capable, ready, installed. Those definitions are also within the ordinance as well now. And again, just the table that you saw kind of carried over from last time shows you what's required and how much bike parking is required. In terms of landscape, one of the changes was we changed from shade trees and evergreen trees to broadleaf and coniferous to match up with other plans within the city. We reverted back to the draft 1.0 standard for species diversity. So you see that there, that table's pulled out of draft 3.0. It'll look familiar to anybody who saw it in draft 1.0. It's the same table, just moved over. And made that species diversity part of the design section, 11.2 of that chapter, so that it can be modified by the planning board as needed. And again, kind of addressing all the different aspects of site development in relation to landscaping. So you see things again along parking lot perimeters, within parking lot interiors, and then buffer yard requirements. Signs has been maintained relatively the same from draft 2.0. The only change is the projection of blade signs to 30 inches. Classic signs, again, those are still in there as well, talking about, preserving some of the more unique signs that may not fit in with the standards, so that provision remains. And you can see here, we kind of regulate as prohibited, signs that are permitted but exempt from permit, and signs that are allowed with permit. We've been working with the administration to make sure, we've been working with staff to make sure that the administration section is accurate. Many of the changes you'll see in here are really just clarifications of language, really nothing substantive. I mean, much of this is we are hemmed in by the way New York State allows for these permits and various approvals to operate. One of the ones you will see is that in the notice type, some distinctions have been made for demolition. And so you'll see here what's been edited in historic review demolition, where it's just a public meeting. Published and mailed notice is not required, just posted on the property. Where you do have a public hearing, whether historic review or architectural review, and it's demolition of significant structures, all three forms of notice are now required: published, mailed, and posted on property. Subdivision in the previous drafts, what you saw, we had a standard subdivision process and what we were calling an administrative subdivision. We've essentially kind of changed the administrative subdivision into an administrative action. So you see here where that would apply. It'd be the consolidation of two or more adjoining lots, minor amendments to already filed subdivision plats, and making it clear that if anything's got secret as part of it, it cannot be used for an administrative action. So therefore, everything else would go to a standard subdivision process. And again, conservation design has remained required in rural residential, and suburban residential is optional in the other residential districts. The public improvements, again, much of this has not been changed. You'll see the reference to various things here. Either it's a reference to right-of-way in Article 18, reference to city engineering details. This ties in as well with stormwater management, which is Article 17, which again, changes have been accepted from draft 2.0. No new substantive changes have been proposed to these. The one that does have a substantive change, and if you remember, in 2.0, we added back in the recreation land requirement. We've accepted that change, but then further refined it in this draft. So now this recreation land requirement becomes open space preservation and recreation land requirement. Again, like the current process, the planning board would determine whether open space or recreation land is needed. If so, it would need to be a minimum of 10% of the land area. You currently have a Class A type and a Class B type. We've just tried to be clear of what those mean. Class A being active recreation land, Class B being passive recreational land, open space, and then added in the references to how this could be managed. And you'll see that that was something that was in some of the previous drafts. It's now back in this draft because we need some guidance. It can either be an HOA, a homeowners association, a condo association, a private conservation organization, or in very limited circumstances through private ownership. Comprehensively addressed the public realm. You see again the standards that we put in, kind of clarified how the multi-use path works. In terms of the right-of-way types, we've altered the one that used to be formerly neighborhood yield street. We went with the current specs that are in place for the in the current engineering specs for a neighborhood one-way street. So this new street really aligns with the way things are done more closely in the city of Saratoga Springs. And you see here just the examples are still within there, everything going from rural to 4-lane divided. The nonconformity standards for use, structure, lot of record, site elements, and signs. These have all remained the same as they were. We did a lot of cleanup in draft 2.0 to make sure that they worked, a lot of refinements. Those have been carried over into this draft 3.0. And with that, I'm going to turn this over to Chris and let him talk you through any of the map changes.
All right, thanks, Arista. So I'm just going to really quickly walk through some of the changes that you'll see on the map from draft map 1 to draft map 2. Draft map 1 went along with draft 2 of the UDO, and draft map 2 is going along with draft 3 of the UDO, just to kind of clarify exactly how these relate to each other. So if you're looking for changes between the first draft of the map and this draft, what you're going to find is really just predominantly cleanups and very minor edits. So maybe things have been mislabeled before and those have now been corrected. Lot splits have been either reinstituted or resolved with some staff guidance, really just very minor stuff moving from the first draft of the map to this draft and largely cleanup. So as I said, when we first presented this map, and it's largely the same, the majority of the city remains unchanged from the current zoning map to this one. And by that, I mean, if you're within the UR3 district, in all likelihood moving forward to the new map, you're going to be in the UR3 district. Similar to, UR2, we'll port over to UR2 and so on and so forth. The alternative is that you might be mapped to an equivalent district. So for instance, if you were in the T4, the Transect 4 district before, now you'll probably end up in the urban neighborhood district, which is an equivalent district in terms of intent and the way that that district operates. So while it's not the same district, we consider that to be an equivalent. Same thing with the previous SR1 and SR2, those suburban residential districts. Those have been consolidated into one suburban residential district, so that's considered an equivalent district. The things that we do consider changes are sort of larger categorical shifts. So say I was a commercially zoned property before, and now I'm an industrially zoned property, or I was a residentially zoned property, and now I'm a commercially zoned property. Those are things that we've considered changes moving forward. So the root basically of all of those changes that you'll see indicated on the map is the 2015 comprehensive plan that was adopted by the city. Practical considerations that arose as we were actually putting this, the draft of the UDO together. So for instance, the elimination of the UR5 and the UR7, we needed to figure out districts for those to go into. And then staff recommendations based upon their expertise of particular conditions. So on the right-hand side here, what you can see, it's just a close-up of what the map looks like. So as you're reviewing, you can see everything is nicely labeled. You don't have to constantly be referring back to the legend. That's a pet peeve of mine because I'm colorblind and so legends don't work. So everything is nicely labeled so that you can see what districts are mapped to where. Next slide, please. So within the package of maps that are up on the website, this is the first one that you'll see. It's the proposed zoning map. This is basically everything that we've just talked about. It's all labeled. It's all the proposed new zoning districts. If you click through, Arista, we've also included the proposed zoning map with areas of change indicated. So again, as I mentioned, those larger sort of categorical shifts will all be indicated with sort of a thicker black outline, very similar to how it worked in draft 1. Next slide, please. We've also included a series of overlay maps, the architectural review overlay district being one that's had a couple minor changes. No changes from draft 1 of this map to draft 2, just in case you're looking for them. We've included the historic zoning, if you click through again. No changes to historic zoning either. It's basically just a port over of the data into the new format. And we do have the water protection overlay districts that is currently being worked through. We're just trying to resolve a few last issues with staff on that map before we share it. And, is very close as well and will appear shortly, I would imagine. So.
Great, thank you. Any comments from the council?
Thank you for all your hard work. I appreciate it.
Yeah, it really is. It's a daunting process, and I think it's great that we're getting to the finish line here. And I do want to say that we are going to have these open Q&As coming up, and I hope that the public participates in them. And I think that we're listening. We've made a lot of changes along the way from day one, and I do appreciate my staff and Camaros, Arista and Chris especially, for all their patience through COVID and getting this project coming to the end. So thank you both.
I still think it'd be really cool if we could run some test cases through at some point. I don't know if that was still something that was being considered or on the table, but I think that would be really helpful if possible.
Okay, we are going to do that. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah. Anything else? Well, thank you both for joining us tonight, and I'll see you in the next couple of days.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. Now moving on to our consent agenda. Are there any changes or additions? I move that the City Council approve the consent agenda as included with this agenda. This is a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? The matter passes. Thank you. Yeah, on to the mayor's department. My first item is an announcement, the capital 2022 capital program committee meetings. I wanted to let the council know and the public know that the capital program committee has begun its regular meeting scheduled to discuss and prepare a proposal for requested projects for the 2022 capital budget. The committee will present its recommendations for the 2022-2027 capital program to the council for adoption on August 17th. My second item is an announcement: Geyser Road Trail opening this Thursday, April 22nd at 11 a.m., and that is also Earth Day. The city of Saratoga Springs is proud to announce the opening of the Geyser Road Trail. This Thursday at 11 a.m., we will host a ribbon cutting ceremony in celebration of opening the trail in Veterans Memorial Park. The Geyser Road Trail project is a result of successful collaborative efforts by the City of Saratoga Springs, the Southwest Neighborhood Association, the New York State Department of Transportation, Capital District Transportation Committee, Capital District Transportation Authority, Saratoga County, Saratoga Spa State Park, and many supportive local citizens. If driving to the ribbon cutting, guests are encouraged to park in the large parking lot off of Adams Road, walk from the parking lot across the baseball field to the ceremony site. Signs will be posted to help guide you in the right directions. Masks and social distancing will be required.
Mayor, can I just say something?
Sure, absolutely.
I think this is terrific. This project was started even prior to my getting elected, and I will give a shout out, kudos even to my predecessor, Commissioner Ivins, because I know that he actually, for a while, kept this project alive on his agenda. So there have been a lot of elected officials throughout the years that have kept this project alive. I think at one point in time, I even had something about it on my agenda somewhere along the line. And I will say that Mayor Yepsen did a lot to get this project moving, but congratulations to you because you got it over the finish line. And I think Thursday is going to be a celebration for the entire city. And maybe we, myself, you, we can even reach out to some of the former elected officials because there have been so many people involved keeping this project going and alive. So
yeah, this has been decades. So I think that, and I appreciate your kind words. And I do know that, that was one of my goals coming in as mayor is to bring this over the finish line, and we're doing it. So I hope that the council can join me on Thursday at 11. That would be terrific if everybody could come and celebrate with us. So thank you for your comments, Commissioner.
Congratulations.
So my next item is discussion and vote approval to pay portion of invoice number 3880 to Nelcorp Electrical Contracting Corp. The Recreation Department is requesting a 50% $2,460 of an invoice number 3880 for Nelcorp Electrical Contracting Corp, 35 North Kelly Avenue, Enwell, New York. The Saratoga Springs School District will pay the other 50%. I move that the City Council approve the portion to pay invoice number 3880 to Nelcorp Electrical Contracting. This is a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The matter passes. Thank you. My next item is discussion and vote authorization for the mayor to sign the 2021 State of New York Department of Health renewal application for a permit to operate Camp Saratoga. This is an annual contract. I move that the City Council authorize the mayor to sign contract with 2021 State of New York Department of Health renewal application for a permit to operate Camp Saratoga. This is a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The matter passes. My next item is discussion and vote authorization for the mayor to sign a contract with All American Arena Products for the Vernon area dasher boards. I move that the City Council authorize the mayor to sign a contract with All American Arena Products for the Vernon Arena dasher boards. This is a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? The matter passes. My next item is discussion and vote seeker for missing links project. On June 16, 2020, the City of Saratoga Springs established the City Council as lead agency for Saratoga Missing Links Sidewalk Project. A resolution and seeker part 1 were completed as part of this action. The purpose of the Missing Link Sidewalk Project is to construct connections in gaps within existing sidewalks throughout the city of Saratoga Springs, Saratoga County, New York. This locally administered federal aid fund project will construct approximately 1.8 miles of sidewalks, ADA compliant crosswalks, amenities, curb installation, and drainage improvements throughout the city. The Design Review Commission heard a presentation by the design team of the proposed Missing Link Sidewalk project at the March 24th meeting. The following further discussion at their April 7th meeting, the DRC provided a favorable advisory opinion to the City Council with a unanimous vote of 7-0. At this time, the city is now progressing with seeker part 2 and 3 short forms. Part 2 is used to decide whether those impacts will have no impact or small impact or a moderate to large impact. Part 3 is a determination of significance, whose purpose is to summarize evaluations made during part 2 and then decide if the moderate to large impacts identified in part 2 may be significant. So now I will read through part 2 of the seeker short form. Will the proposed actions create a material conflict with the adopted land use plan or zoning regulations? My proposed answer is no, or small impact may occur. Will the proposed action result in a change in the use or intensity of use of land? My proposed answer is no, or small impact may occur. Number 3, will the proposed action impair the character or quality of the existing community? My proposed answer is no, or small to impact may occur. Number 4, will the proposed action have an impact on the environmental characteristics that cause the establishment of critical environmental area? My proposed answer is no, or small impact may occur. Number 5, will the proposed action result in an adverse change in the existing level of traffic or affecting existing infrastructure for mass transit, biking, or walkway? My proposed answer is no. Small impact or small impact may occur. Number 6, will the proposed action cause an increase in use of energy and it fails to incorporate reasonably available energy conservation or renewable energy opportunities? My proposed answer is no, or small impact may occur. Number 7, will the proposed action impact existing A, public-private water supplies? My proposed answer is no, or small impact may occur. And part B of that is public-private wastewater treatment facilities. My proposed answer is no, or small impact may occur. Number 8, will the proposed action impair the character or quality of important archaeological, architectural, or aesthetic resources? My proposed answer is no, or small impact may occur. Will the proposed action result in an adverse change to the natural resources, wetlands, water bodies, groundwater, air quality, flora, and fauna? My proposed answer is no, or small impact may occur. Will the proposed action result in an increase in the potential for erosion, flooding, or drainage problems? My proposed answer is no, or small impact may occur. Will the proposed action create a hazard to environmental resources or human health? My proposed answer is no, or small impact may occur. Based on the information provided in Part 1 of Seeker's short environmental assessment form, the analysis of the information provided and presented in Part 2 of this Seeker short environmental assessment form, I move that the Seeker negative declaration, since the project will not result in any large and important impacts and therefore is one that will have a significant will not have a significant adverse impact on the environment. This is a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The matter passes. My next item is discussion and vote approval for mayor to sign DEC 01-T0097 to GG-3350000 contract for EV vehicle reimbursement. On December 31, 2019, the city of Saratoga Springs purchased 2 Chevy Bolt electric vehicles. To help support the purchase, the city applied and received $10,000 grant through the 2019 Municipal Zero Emission Vehicle Clean Vehicle Rebate Program. The attached contract with the DEC is for reimbursement to the city in the amount of $10,000, $5,000 per vehicle. The vehicles are currently being utilized in the building department and the Department of Public Works. I move that the city council approve the mayor to sign DEC 01-T000972 GG-3350000 contract for EV vehicle reimbursement. This is a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? The matter passes. And my 8th item is a discussion and vote zoning amendment request, merit for review and referral for advisory opinions, YMCA PUD. And I'm going to turn this over to Commissioner Frank.
Thank you, Mayor. Mayor's item number 8, we've moved to our agenda for discussion and vote zoning amendment request, merit for review and referral for advisory opinions. The proposed amendments to the YMCA PUD includes clarification of language, correction of typos, and the addition of permitted uses such as youth and family services, senior programming, elder care, sports and recreation, and preschool age educational programs. Therefore, I move that the zoning text amendment proposed by the Saratoga Regional YMCA has merit for review and will be forwarded to the city and county planning boards for an advisory opinion. And that's a motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The matter passes.
Thank you, Mayor. And then my first item on the agenda is just a brief announcement, and we'll give updates as we get closer. But Grievance Day is the 4th Tuesday, which is May 25th of this year. Applications will be available on the city's website effective May 1st for residents to complete should they wish to grieve their assessment. A box will be placed in the hallway accessible by the ramp door of City Hall for residents to drop off their grievance packets for review by the Board of Assessment Review on May 25th. And as we get closer at the next 2 meetings, we'll give you some more updates. Unfortunately, because of COVID, we're not able for the second year in a row to do our grievance class, but we'll point you to the website that has a lot of information on that throughout the process. And that concludes my agenda.
Thank you, Commissioner. On to Finance, Commissioner Madigan.
Thank you, Mayor. The first item on my agenda is an update on city finances. This is an ongoing report on city revenue, expenses, and cash flow, as well as the status of federal and state funding. There is very little news to report on at this time. Sales tax for January through March includes only 2 months of estimated figures. Within the next 6 weeks, 6 to 8 weeks, I will say that we will have first quarter actuals, and I'm very excited to see how we actually do with sales tax for the city. We do have a $6.3 million TAN, a tax anticipation note due in full in June. We have another $5 million TAN due in full in December. We have large expense disbursements in June, county and school taxes, debt servicing, and payroll for that month, which will total $12.2 million. Cash flow depends in part on whether the city does indeed get reimbursed for large amounts that are owed to us in reimbursements. For example, the Geyser Road Trail, and I know you are working on that, but that is a large outstanding amount of money that we would like to see reimbursed to the city. Having that money in will also change our cash flow picture. And of course, we do, I believe, still have in process the sale of real property. So those two things could really help add to, our fiscal issues that we're having right now. VLT was fully restored in 2021-2022 New York State adopted budget. That's $2.3 million. That's excellent. Unfortunately, there still is no data on the timing of the multi-year schedule of the $7.7 million the city will receive for the American Rescue Plan. There's no timing on the data, how, when it's going to be dispersed, but we're paying close attention to that. That's all I really have to say right now on that topic. This item will remain on my agenda for future council meetings. I believe I have, my next item is a discussion about Sci-Fi Networks broadband, the citywide broadband project, basically fiber to the home and businesses. But I believe Scott Bradshaw has joined us. So I'm not sure if we can turn on his video.
You should be able to unmute and turn it on.
Okay, Scott, if you're on, there you are. Excellent. Everyone, this is Scott Bradshaw from Sci-Fi Networks. I'm just going to speak for a few minutes, and then I'm going to turn it over to Scott for some comments, and then we can have a discussion. So I have asked Sci-Fi Networks, who agreed on short notice, to speak tonight at the council meeting regarding our project. I believe that there may be others tuning in from the UK and in the States, so maybe very early in the morning for well, you're not presenting from the UK, Scott, but we may have people tuning in from the UK. So the citywide Sci-Fi Networks Fiber to the Home and Business project will bring a substantial increase in services to the city overall, including businesses and residents. This is a project for the people, to be perfectly honest. It's a complicated project that does require interdepartmental cooperation, particularly between DPW and finance, but we've also had a lot of involvement from legal in the mayor's office and Marilyn Rivers, our director of risk and safety. And we are all doing our best to make it work without, really overburdening one agency or department or another. I do believe that the benefits far outweigh any work required, and I'm very happy with the initiative of our various departments to bring this fiber to the home and business throughout our city. Regarding Sci-Fi standard details and network design, we are at a stage where we are now required to approve standard engineering details. Standard details are the basic details of how Sci-Fi will go about microtrenching in our city and include the materials they will use for our cold weather climate, which Scott will touch upon a little bit more when I turn this over to him, the actual depth of the trench, the structure, the cut, and how we will reinstall and finish, install, reinstall when we need to, and finish the project. After we approve these standard details, then Sci-Fi will lay our city out in a grid, the network, and determine which areas are easily microtrenched and which areas are not. And that's when all the permitting will come into play. But everything will be based on the standard engineering details. Sci-Fi is understandably reticent to spend any more time, money working with our city if we cannot agree to standard engineering details for the project. So first, we need to indicate our willingness to see this project forward by agreeing to standards. We already agreed to microtrenching as a technology in our development agreement, which was voted on, discussed by the city attorney unanimously by the city council. So now we need to go to the next step, which is to agree to the standard details. Agreeing to details does not mean that they will be trenching tomorrow. We still have an entire permitting process to go through. I circulated an update and information about microtrenching this afternoon regarding the process, which also included links and links to a video. So there was a lot in there about pros and cons and videos, to microtrenching. Some of the points, if you had a chance to look through some of that data, include the following. Microtrenching is the way companies are now laying fiber throughout the United States. This includes companies like Google, Verizon, Crown Castle, et cetera. It allows for municipalities to offer fiber to the home and businesses at a reasonable low cost rate with limited disruption in streets and is the preferred method over macro trenching, or basically digging up the entire street at a cost that is too high for companies to absorb. This is the reason, as you will recall, when Verizon was moving forward with Fios, they did not come into the city of Saratoga Springs. They came almost up to our border and determined it was too expensive to go any further. When we began discussions with Sci-Fi, I want to say maybe late 2015 into 2016, microtrenching was a relatively new method here in the States. We didn't see a lot of that, but that is no longer the case. This is no longer considered cutting edge here in the States, but a practice that is being used by many municipalities to control costs and build competitive fiber networks. We're talking about 10 gig access to the home and to business at a very reasonable rate. About $60 a month is an estimate, and at no cost to the city to build the fiber infrastructure network. I have personally talked with cities who have positive things to say about their progress and how thrilled they are to be getting a fiber-rich city infrastructure in their community. Sci-Fi now operates in 11 cities and in 5 different states, and that grows every day, including cities that have moved forward, have surpassed us because they have been able to accept standard engineering details. We have been working with Sci-Fi for 5-6 years now. The city's team has had countless meetings with Sci-Fi's team. These meetings have included the city attorney, risk and safety. DPW has been invited to many, if not all of these meetings. So some of these 13th hour concerns is what I'm hoping to dispel this evening. We've had several years to evaluate microtrenching. Sci-Fi made a presentation to us several years ago with a video about microtrenching. And again, we agreed to the development contract. So I think the city deserves to continue move into the 24th century. Having Wi-Fi capabilities is one of our best opportunities, broadband, internet, to everyone in our community. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Scott because there are a few things that I know he can address, some issues that have come up over the last few days, including the kind of material we would be using in a cold weather climate that has been approved by New York State and is being used in the state currently. Thank you, Scott, for being here.
Thank you. So I just want to make sure you can hear me before I rabbit on and I'm listening to myself.
Yes, we hear you. Yep.
I appreciate that. First and foremost, thank you very much. It has been some considerable time since I've had the pleasure to speak with everybody and be in front of everybody in regards to the developments within Sci-Fi. So with that said, if it's okay with everybody, I'd just like to really go back to the beginning, just spend a short moment of time in regards to where we were several years ago, how Sci-Fi's developed, how a number of things have developed, and really where we are today, the exciting environment we're in, not only for Saratoga Springs, New York, but also the other cities throughout the country that we're investing in and have agreements with to date. So as Commissioner Madigan, thank you so much. A lot of information thrown out there. So I'm just going to touch on some of the points more than anything else, keep it as high level as possible. So if everybody remembers, some new, some old in regards to previous council, back in August of 2018, we entered into a development agreement with City Council, Saratoga Springs, New York, with the full intention of investing privately tens of multi-millions of dollars at Sci-Fi's 100% risk with our investors to build out a community fiber to the premise infrastructure. Fiber to the premise merely being every single premise, church, community centre, residents, businesses, and also with the opportunity to hopefully support the municipality from smart city initiatives at the time. So once we had that agreement in place, we then began the process of looking at the engineering, looking at the data in a lot more detail, because once we had the development agreement in place, Sci-Fi begins to absorb substantial costs. Again, because this is a no taxpayer, no municipal subsidy, everything's on Sci-Fi. We do get very granular in regards to how many premises are in reality in place, what is the construction distances, what internet service providers would like to come onto an open access platform. So maybe just to reiterate that point, the Fiber City model that we're providing in all the communities we're in to date and have agreements with, it is an open access platform. So any service provider, whether it be broadband, telemedicine, smart city initiatives, IoT devices, they are all welcome on the infrastructure. Sci-Fi is not the ISP. We are the developer, bring it to fruition, that we just create a very private, financial, sustainable model for a very long period of time. So as we got into the engineering, really into late 2018, early 2019, we hit a blip, an unexpected one that even city staff were not aware of, is that once we actually acquired a lot of the postal address data, unfortunately, what became clear was there was thousands of residencies that that were utilizing the zip code, certain addresses in the city for whatever reason, but actually didn't reside within your jurisdiction. So once we actually looked at your jurisdiction with actually more accurate data at that time, really going into the granular detail, it became clear that the financial structure was very, very difficult. Just being as candid as I can there. So to invest in as a 100% opportunity, it was going to take a different way of looking at this. At that time, we and still are to date, we were partnering with a very large pension fund. That pension fund manages well over $500 billion, and who at that time had an interest in Saratoga until the position changed, where we lost several thousand premises that we could potentially provide service to. That ultimately changed the amortization model, the attractiveness for our pension funds. But we made a commitment to City Council. We said we wanted to build this for the community. The incumbents were not stepping up. They were not investing in fibre. And I think as we stand to date, everybody's also fully aware they're still not invested in fibre into the homes. So we had to take a step back. We didn't give up. We unfortunately lost that pension fund as the primary investor. So we took a step back. We went to multiple other partners that we were engaged with. And finally, we were able to represent Saratoga Springs as an investable opportunity to an American investment bank who ultimately today would like to invest in the community. So as I say, we hit a hurdle, which is unfortunate based upon the data, which was significantly inaccurate. We took it on the chin. We'd already absorbed a lot of costs at that time. We came back. We managed to make it work, and this is where we are today. So during that process over the last couple of years, really between 2018 and 2021, as we sit here, a number of things have happened. To Commissioner Madigan's point, we now have agreements in an additional 11 cities. Actually, and that'd be rudely for me to talk about Fullerton. Fullerton, California was and still is our first fiber city community. Fiber City being the brand of the investment where we build for our entire city to create a ubiquitous footprint. Fullerton today, the new mayor of Fullerton could not be the biggest advocate if we tried. He will speak to any city to applaud the impact the investment is making into the community, the responses he's receiving from the community in regards to the competition, bearing in mind at that time, before we ever put a spade in the ground, we brought 2 brand new internet service providers to that community. We initially invested $70 to $80 million of private investment with no taxpayer subsidies. And as it stands now, we are the service provider on that open access competing network are offering one of the lowest costs in the country for symmetrical fiber internet, that being a gigabit speed down, a gigabit speed up for the residents, and that is $60. It is an absolutely unprecedented position. The competition is awesome. And for the businesses, it's only $99. So that's been the dynamics. What happened in Fullerton has been a very difficult process for Sci-Fi. We entered into an agreement originally with the Director of Public Works. Unfortunately for Sci-Fi, that gentleman decided to retire. So it was almost like starting the process again. We then went through the education process and microtrenching with Fullerton to bring the city engineers up to speed on how we're going to build it, which we began to. And then one by one, unfortunately, each city engineer has decided to leave Fullerton. So we have continued to go through a re-education process. Why Fullerton is not able to retain city engineers, we're unsure of that. But I say through that entire history of the last few years, it's almost been that Sci-Fi has had to begin the process of educating them. But as we stand here today now, we have substantial footprint in the community. We have many, many live customers. And I say we actually use Fullerton as a reference location for all new communities that wish to receive a fiber city investment. So I say during that period, we now have, there's a total 12 cities that we either have invested in or are investing in. That covers 6 different states, from warm states to cold weather states. So examples would be Fullerton, as I just mentioned. Their adjoining community, we have just closed funding on. That is Placentia, which is great news. So we'll be breaking ground very shortly in Placentia. So as you can imagine, if we weren't doing things right in Fullerton, the adjoining city would certainly not be signing up to receive connectivity, which we just closed on the funding with them, several millions of dollars as well. Through to Northern California, through to very cold weather states, Rockford in Illinois. That's a community of about 82,000 units, what we call premises, about 6 million feet of construction, to Kenosha, Wisconsin, and your closest being in regards to East Hartford, Connecticut, and Salem, Massachusetts. So during the period of time, we've entered into those partnerships. They've signed a very similar development agreement that you kindly signed with us back in August 2018, and they also approved the engineering standards. And those engineering standards are really as they sound. They are a set of standard techniques that we will apply a citywide design upon. So it's not the case of we are submitting a permit. We actually go through a different process. Back when we entered into an agreement with yourselves, it was a development agreement, and then we ratified the standards. To date, when we actually go through a development agreement process, we actually have our engineering standards appended as an exhibit to the development agreement. And the Department of Public Works and Engineering and also City Council approved them at the outset. So you can see at that point, there's no funding, there's no permits. That's just City Council approving the documents, which is where we really are today with Saratoga in the same instance. So what that really means of where we are as Sci-Fi, how we've developed, we will now be funding, or should I say, we've actually raised with our pension fund partner, APG, over $450 million to invest in a multitude of all of these communities. That's just the initial funding. We are going to be taking fiber optic cable to 500,000 units throughout the country. And that is well over 5,000 miles of microtrenching construction, all based upon the standards that you have in hand to date. So as we go through the process, I think with Saratoga, we're in for a give or take 240 miles, about 1.2 million feet of construction. That was going to be funded by an American investment bank. So it's always good to see American money retaining in the country. So where we are is quite critical and very key. We are, as well as we would say, we are ready to go. We have the investment, private investment. There is no taxpayer subsidy. We already have the development agreement in place with you. We have service providers that would like to come to the community, and we have construction partners that really probably have the most experience in the country from a microtrenching perspective. Even though you agreed to the microtrenching process back in 2018, we have presented standards that are no different than the other 11 cities are employing throughout the various other states in the country. The reinstatement product that we are proposing to use, we believe to be the best in the market, and that is actually approved by New York City, DOT. It has been used for many years. It was actually the microtrenching approved product in New York City for Verizon when they did it many years ago. It's also approved as a New York Thruway by the New York Thruway Authority. It's been used as the approved product for the Tappan Zee Bridge, or the new Governor McComo Bridge. So it is very much a recognized and approved reinstatement product. So that's really why we approached it in New York. We're applying it elsewhere, but very much to keep in line with what's been recognized and approved in the state. We want to keep that consistency. So that's why we are looking to use it in Saratoga Springs. But just to give you some additional significant confidence, that product and the reinstatement product right now is being used in Harristown, Maryland. That's about 150 miles of construction. It's being used in other climates, such as in Canada, Montreal, Ontario. It's actually being used in Chicago. It's being used in Virginia. It's about to be used in Columbus and Cleveland, Ohio, and also Centennial, Colorado. All very similar environments to yourself. So we feel we're in good stead. We believe we have the right product, merely being New York State's approving it. Multiple other states have already approved it and implementing it on a very large scale. So what we need is authorization from your engineering department. We have not only provided these standards, which we'll go into in a second, we've also provided all the insurances. as per the development agreement that was requested, as per your risk and safety, and as per engineering, we have what we feel we've gone above and beyond to provide all necessary insurances. We've even provided a New York stamped engineer standards document to satisfy the engineering department. And we also provided 3 different references. So one is in Boston, Massachusetts, where it's been for a while. One is in Alaska. That one was very, very different in that microtrenching was used a very long time ago. It wasn't received very well. So the actual engineering firm that we are looking to use in Saratoga Springs was actually went back in to remediate the existing issues they had. And it went that well that the city council unanimously approved and adopted an ordinance to accept the microtrenching process with the same engineering firm, that obviously the leader of the engineering firm that we'd like to bring to your community. And then Eagan, Minnesota, and the DPW, actually reached out to the DPW director of Eagan, Minnesota today to just see how things are going, because the manufacturer, the reinstatement product, has a very good relationship with them. And that DPW director is still waiting, which was quite shocking for us, is still waiting to receive a call from yourselves in regards to that reference, because he welcomes any call in regards to not only microtrenching, but the product that we're recommending today. The product there has been in place for about 6 years, and he can not only jump leap and bounds in regards to the use of the product we're recommending in Saratoga Springs, the microtrenching process that we're also recommending. So as of today, our understanding is that call has not been made to the DPW director, but he's waiting on the end of the phone to have that reference contact with the Saratoga engineering team. But circling back to the standards, we're in a critical position, as I mentioned earlier, because we cannot move forward. We have everything in place, but the one thing we need to do is move to the engineering of the entire city now. But there needs to be a set of standards to how we engineer. Just like you build a hotel, there needs to be a standard of how you're going to build it, how you're going to build the foundation, the structure. So the standards, as I say, that's been presented and stamped by a New York licensed engineer are just this is a standard document we now append at the beginning to all new partnerships we enter into with cities. And it is a basis of how we will then engineer the entire city. Not a permit. We are not raising any permits. We're now going to engineer the city. Once that's in place, we actually sit down with the DPW engineering department. We will go through the various ways we've engineered the design, gain some feedback. Do we need to change anything? You know your roads and community better than we do. Once we have that feedback, we'll then break the community into multiple work zones, and that's when we'll start issuing permits, to which we're still looking for feedback. So,
Okay, Scott, I'm going to stop you there because we're having some freezing on both ends, your end and my end.
Oh,
so good. I'm going to turn it back over to Commissioner Madigan.
Well, I'd like to open it up for a discussion now. I think both Scott, Sci-Fi, and I have made it clear that we're at this stage. We've been working on this for many, many years. We want to work with DPW. We want to work with engineering. I know Sci-Fi does, but we are at this stage where, we've already got an agreement with them. They've already invested a lot of money. We're talking about, maybe a $60, once it's all installed, our residents are looking at, potentially around $60 a month for, we're talking fiber to the home. Businesses about $100 a month. I checked on what Spectrum, Charter, Time Warner are charging today for like 400. Where are my notes? Hold on a second. So I wanted to just get an idea, right? A comparison of what they charge, about $110 for 400, megabits down and 35 megabits up, right? So you can already see there's like a very competitive price right there. We're not paying to install this amazing infrastructure that we might be able to get. Microtrenching is the technology that is being used right now throughout the United States. So, there's just a lot of positives to this. So at this point, we need to indicate, I think quite clearly to Sci-Fi, if we are ready to move, accept this standard engineering details, and if we're ready to move to the next step. And I think tonight's meeting, everything is hinging on it, to be honest with you, for Sci-Fi and for the city. So I would like to open it up to the rest of the council.
I don't have any comments, it's not within my department, so.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Mayor. I appreciate that. It is within DPW, and basically it's a DPW project. And DPW has spent a lot of hours, working with Sci-Fi, for this project. As a matter of fact, I think it was probably about a year ago, maybe actually, where we were going through the renovation of City Hall, I met with representatives of Sci-Fi for the aggregation shelters, and I gave them the locations because they asked me for locations. So regardless if you think I'm not supportive of this project, I am supportive of the project. My concern is, and I sent a memo around to the council, and I think everybody got it. But you know something, I'm going to read it to the public because I think it's a good memo, and I think it pretty much spells out the reason why I have some concerns with micro trenching. And I'll just start with DPW engineering have reviewed a network construction detail submitted by Sci-Fi and investigated references to determine if micro trenching is a feasible construction method for the city of Saratoga Springs. There are outstanding items that need resolution. This comes down to two primary issues. One is Sci-Fi standard details. Representatives of Sci-Fi are requesting that I approve their submitted details for micro trench construction. I have requested their entire network design to understand where this construction will occur. Typically, the network design and construction details would be submitted together. Sci-Fi has said the network design will come later. I believe that we need to know where they will be constructing the network to be able to approve how they will micro trench. Number two, references of micro trench construction in cold weather climates. A significant concern for the city streets is the long-term impact of micro trenching in a freeze-thaw cycle. Sci-Fi has not built a network yet in a cold weather climate. However, Sci-Fi provided 3 cold weather references from their contractor and material supplier for the construction and type of materials. Those locations were Boston, Mass, Anchorage, Alaska, and Eagan, Minnesota. Of the 3, Boston returned a positive reference. Boston, Massachusetts, the building inspector from Boston provided a positive reference for the limited use of micro trenching in Boston. There was only micro trenching in certain locations, limited to laterals to adjacent properties, not citywide. The inspector also recommended that the trench depth should be deeper than 12 inches. Anchorage, Alaska, Kent Colhase, the Anchorage municipal engineer, outlined that Anchorage would not be a positive reference for micro trenching, and that they have only allowed test locations to determine constructability. Their test locations failed. Sometimes in as short of a period as a single winter. The attached presentation was put together, and I sent a presentation out to the council, was put together by Kent Colhase and identifies some of the issues they have experienced. Eagan, Minnesota, references from Eagan demonstrated that microtrenching was not successful due to the conduit not laying properly in the trench. This resulted in the fiber being ripped up. The decision in Eagan was to move the location of the fiber into the green space of the right-of-way due to the complications in the road. Sci-Fi under construction in Fullerton, California, and that the reports have been mixed. Commissioner Madigan has indicated, again, that recent reports are positive. Attached are 2 local newspaper articles from December 2020 and February 2021, identifying issues and concerns in Fullerton. Sci-Fi is proposing that the city accept the construction detail that has failed or been determined to be unacceptable from 2 of their own 3 references. Without adequate references, it is not possible to determine if micro trenching will be successful in Saratoga Springs. Another reason to justify through thorough review of the references to make certain this can work is because the engineer John Liu, PE, submitting the details for Sci-Fi has no experience working in cold weather climates. He admittedly has only worked in California and warm weather climates. So, in an effort to move forward, I am requiring the following. Sci-Fi submit their full citywide network design. Number 2, Sci-Fi conduct a micro trench location in Saratoga Springs so we can determine how city streets and their construction method hold up through a winter season. And number 3, Sci-Fi shall start making payments to the city for staff time associated with their approvals. The development agreement, and I know there was an agreement with the contract states that their payment begins at their first permit for approval. And again, I was not aware that we would be requiring other approvals, such as construction details, prior to their first payment permit approval. Typically, these would all be submitted together, not piecemeal. These items will help to keep this project moving along. Again, those are my concerns. I certainly would meet with somebody to discuss those again. We take a lot of pride in our streets. We don't know if you're going to be trenching on one side or two sides. We don't know, if there's issues with undercutting in the trench. Obviously, that's an issue. We've just paved some roads. There's new paving going on. I'm not opposed to the project. I've never been opposed to the project, but seeing is believing, I think, in this situation here. And I'm concerned of the impact, the long-term impact on city streets, and what micro trenching might do. So I don't know if you have any answers or concerns with that, but again, I'm not ready to do anything until, I think we can resolve these issues.
No, and Commissioner, I accept all of I certainly hear all the comments. Key thing for me is maybe going backwards on a few of these, in that payments that is perfectly fine for us to address, and we are just leading off the development agreement that was already in place. With respect to where the construction is going to be, we've all known about this for a long period of time because Sci-Fi has never changed since 2014. We build on both sides of every street. The standards that your department has had in place for months, it clearly outlines where we are building or where we are proposing to build on both sides of every street. We don't deviate from them. We stick by them. That's how we build and that's how we engineer, just like we're doing with every other city. The Sci-Fi, as everybody knows, Sci-Fi is the developer. Sci-Fi does not construct the infrastructure. We work with very leading, very best of breed US organizations in the country to build these on our behalf and our investors. So when we talk about the code weather references, they are not Sci-Fi references. They are organizations that have already constructed this infrastructure for many, many years. And in regards to Egan, as I've already mentioned, DPW, to our knowledge, has not received that and is a big advocate in regards to not only the product, but how well the microtrenching is performing. And I think there's been some misunderstanding in regards to how microtrenching in Egan has been received. And I can come on to that in a second, but I actually have Greg Lingini, who is actually the manufacturer of the Sterling Lloyd product, who was actually part of that project for the last 6 years and can very confidently and accurately talk to that. When we talk about the New York engineer, I think there's some, for whatever reason, it's been taken out of context that John Liu he's been asked as a New York licensed engineer to stamp the standards that we presented, which he has done. And it's been made very clear that that gentleman doesn't have the experience of the remediation product, so he defers to the manufacturer, just like any construction organization does. Mr. Liu has ample experience across many locations, so I think it's very unfair to actually segregate his experience and say he has no cold weather experience, which is just an accurate statement.
He admitted that. He said that admittedly he's only worked in California in warm weather. So that's a concern. That's what he said. So I'm only reiterating, what he said.
So if you want to keep putting up roadblocks, you put them up. But all I'm hearing is opposition. Your position. You
can hear whatever you want to hear, but this is not the finance commissioner's issue. It's now in DPW. It's now in the right of way. So I need to address certain issues that engineering is obviously concerned about.
Yes, and I agree fully. And I fully agree with you. And that is, We do not want to invest in your community if you don't want it. Full stop. That is such a bad deal. But this is a long-term investment. It is a 100% private risk. And because we're in your right of way, we need to have a very strong relationship with you. So I do not want you entering into a partnership that if you're not going to support it, it's not good for us. It's not good for the community.
So Scott.
Yes.
If you understand what my concerns are, I can reiterate what the concerns are. If you can deal with that, then I think we can form a pretty decent partnership. Again, we need to know, somehow there's, I know the cabinets go up in the neighborhood. Somehow they figured out they needed 32 cabinets. How did you figure that out without a set of plans, without a set of citywide plans? I don't know how you would do that.
That's a great question. Yeah, allow me to answer that one for you. So the way the network is designed, we are not building fiber to the home, Commissioner. We are not building fiber to the business. We are building a smart city infrastructure. Fiber to the home and fiber to the business is an ancillary benefit of that infrastructure. So what that really means is when we design, we have a very much now a advantageous design that ultimately treats it as a plug and play. So what that really means is for every circa of 900 to 1,000 units, whether that be smart city locations or residential premises, we know that number of units can be served by a single cabinet. So there's a lot of work we can do ahead of time before we've actually even engaged with a community to see if they're ultimately investable or not. So when we look at a community, we can quickly see how many units there are in the community, what is the potential construction distance. So bearing in mind the center line distance, and you are aware that we build on both sides of the street, you take the center line distance and you double it. That gives you a very good indicative idea of where you are. We then, if you bring that back to what we call the aggregation shelters, which is what connects us to the World Wide Web, they're the aggregation point that the cabinets also connect to. Those approximately can be connecting about 20,000 units. So as you can see, there's a lot of static data that we can already articulate into whether you are investable or not. That then leads us to the standards. Those are the granular details in regards to what techniques are we allowed to build, what are we not allowed to build, and then how quickly can we build them, depending on how many teams we're allowed, which is where we get to the standards. So that's really the point of where we are in regards to it not being a permit. It is a set of standards that we are now about to engineer the entire city on, not raise a permit right now, engineer the city, to which once we have that engineering, then when we sit down and do a page turn in regards to this is the type of permit form we'd like to submit to you, what is your feedback, as well as a lot of feedback between now and actually that permitting stage. So the things I'm hearing, I don't think are insurmountable in that the payment, like anything, that is perfectly fine. We can address that. The manufacturer in regards to talking about a plethora of cities that already have this are installing it. We can provide more locations in similar climates that you are experiencing now. And that can be from a location through to a reference site. We are more than happy to provide those to you. Where our concern really lies at the moment is what we're looking for is feedback from you. Oh, if you say right now, I'm not going to approve these standards as just standards, there's no point in moving forward. Because if you don't approve standards now,
how can we approve them when we're getting all this negative feedback? These are your references that we checked out. And I mean, these people are coming back and saying just about, hey, don't do it. It's not working. This, micro trenching is not working here. Again, our climate is not like Fullerton. I mean, we have, 3 seasons that are halfway decent. Then, we get into the wintertime and we're constantly dealing with potholes and the roads breaking up. And, when water gets into, these cracks, if this stuff, shrinks or if there's an issue with it, then we're going to have roads that are going to start to erode. And it's going to provide it's going to be a dangerous situation. We got manholes that are storm drains that are, a foot off the curb. I don't know how far out in the roadway you'd have to cut the trench, but it's a concern. And I think what I'm trying to tell you is that seeing's believing here. I think if we were to get together and maybe do a test pit or a test trench.
Okay, but
would that work? And I know I asked them to do that, and for whatever reason, they don't want to do it. I mean,
so no, our point is, rather than do a test is only good in isolation, and I don't think really yields the information you would necessarily require. Whereas if you were to actually look at the reference site, Egan, that for whatever reason you're saying is a negative, where actually they would jump on the phone right now if they're available and talk to how much they love the product and reinstatement, and they've got over like 100 miles of this for several years. So I think looking at it on a larger scale that's been through multiple freeze-fall winter cycles will derive far better informed information. So maybe I think key thing is, let's go back to a couple of those references. Let's provide some more, because I don't feel a test small, a nominal location is going to return dividend for you in regards to your expectation. Let's go back and look at people that have already got it in place for several years. I don't know what your thoughts on that. I personally think that would be a logical approach, but I don't know unless you tell me Saratoga is different than Minnesota or a different, Chicago or New York City. I don't know. Please help me out to help you.
Well, I think it would be great if you, Scott, and Commissioner Scirocco could have, a conversation and maybe have a third, your third party people on the same call, and he can ask him his questions, without, a prompt or anything. And, I don't know what you want to do, but.
Well, I pretty much laid out what I think we need to do. And this is what engineering is comfortable with. And I'm reiterating what engineering is actually saying. I mean, this is the reason why I'm doing this is because of the feedback we've been getting. I mean, there's newspaper articles in regards to it. There's a lot of negatives. And again, I want to support this project, but I don't want to support it if it's going to be a detriment to our city streets. I mean, we spend a lot of money. We get money from our CHIP program, and we can only pave that street once every 10 years. So if we were to go back in and do this micro trenching, and God forbid if we had issues with our streets, and again, I think, Scott, we're going to be ripping up every city street for the most part. And if there's issues with it, then we have to go in. The taxpayers have to come back, and they have to go and resurface the street. That's an issue. So I'm only looking for some assurance here that we're not going to have any issues with the street.
Okay, understood. And
can I finish? How are you going to address the issue with the state and the county? We have state roads in the city and county roads in the city, and neither one of them are saying micro trenching is going to happen on their roads. So they have concern. Why should I have a concern?
And certainly to that point, our development agreement, the techniques is merely for the roads that you control. As you're fully aware, it really is that. And anything outside of there will have to conform to whatever county and state requires. We've been fully accepting of that. We're not looking to deviate from that. Just for sake of visualization, though, and when we talk about ripping up the streets, the cut. And Commissioner, I know you're fully aware of this, but just for everybody else, the trenching is a 1.25 inch wide. That is it. Not 3 feet, not steel plates, no traffic lane closures. It's 1.25 inch wide with 12 inches deep. But to the point in regards to what the mayor is requesting, Mayor, we've already gone through the process. We've had, just like we had this evening with Mr. Legini, we had the manufacturer who could talk to any location where the products are installed. We've had the contractor on the line on multiple occasions. We've hoped that these kind of conversations would already been addressed. So I guess what I'm looking for, Commissioner Scirocco, is we want to work with you, just like you're expressing you want to work with us. I don't feel that a test location is going to return or is going to yield the benefits you want. I think addressing it that someone's already gone through over multiple seasons on a substantial scale throughout their entire city is better data for you. So what would you be thinking? That we have a separate call again and we go through those existing reference sites? The feedback we have seems to be contrary to what you're suggesting. Is there anything else you would like to propose? Or do you feel you say, I just want to can this and this is done? Well, what's your preference?
Yeah, look, Scott, there isn't even a place around here where we go look at it. There's nothing even close to where this, the city can even look and see what it looks like in the road. I mean, again, it's going in there and it's a wheel with teeth on it that goes in and digs, and it just digs. It doesn't saw cut. I mean, usually when National Grid will go in, National Grid will dig, but then they'll come back and they'll saw cut the hole so it's pretty square, and then they'll go ahead and patch it in, so there's no undercutting, around the outsides. Micro trenching, with no doubt, undercuts the road, which leaves the surface vulnerable to caving in, to actually, falling in. So that's a concern. And if it's in the driving lane, chances are it will be. That's I don't know if that's gonna work in our favor. I don't want to have to keep patching roads. It's bad enough now that we have to go in and patch, because we have issues, in the winter when we have potholes and stuff like that.
Indeed. And we could talk about those specifications, because the actual product we use, the calcium sulfur and aluminate, is the product, back in the world wars, where if a bombing came down and bombed the runway, they would use this product to reinstate the runway and open it up 1 hour later. We're talking about a substantially strong product. This is used for repairing bridges, not thoroughways, arterials, for bridges. But we can have this as a separate conversation. I don't want to obviously get into the detail now. The key thing for me is, do you see a path forward for, if we can revisit the references we presented, if we can ease your concerns on standards, this is something you're going to be supporting for us to actually invest these tens of millions of dollars in the community or not?
Why are you opposed to doing a test strip? That's my concern.
I don't, because it doesn't.
It says it's not going to work. A test strip will obviously tell us, if it goes through a season, then there's a potential that there's going to be issues with it, or there's not going to be issues with it. So if we were to do a test pit in the community, just for sake of process, we have to wait for that to go through a season, and it's only going to be nominal data. So we're sat here and now it's 2022, probably this time in 2022. It is another year of waiting for the community, when I already have we have multiple other cities through construction partners that have this installed on hundreds and hundreds of miles basis, that can talk about their experience for 5 or 6 years long, which is going to yield greater data than a test pit. That's just where my thought process to support you. So you don't do test strips anywhere? You haven't done a test strip anywhere?
We will do a test strip if necessary. What I'm actually saying is, there is so much information up for over the last several years that would bring you more valuable data than a test strip in your community.
Right. Well, why wouldn't this be necessary? I mean, it's in a frost type situation. I mean, I think that's the reason why you would do it. And that really
that's what I'm offering. The data is in a freeze situation across these multiple other locations. It's not in California. It's in these very fluctuating states with hundreds of miles. I just feel that will yield greater information for you. That's all I'm trying to propose to you.
Again, I don't know where it's going to go. I don't know how you're going to get to even the outer lying parts of the city. You may only do, just the core of the city, and that's it. So because we have county roads and we have state roads that are actually in the city. And I think if you were to do a plan, then you would see all that. You would see how, where the issues are and where they're not. That's why we're looking for a full citywide network plan that would tell us where the cabinets are going to go, where the aggregation shelters are going to go, and where all the infrastructure is going to go. I don't know if everybody's aware, but where the cabinets are on the street, there's 15 feet on each side in the right of way that there's infrastructure that goes out into the street. Those are the plans I think you guys submitted. Am I correct? It's like 30 feet, some 15 feet each side, I think, on underground.
So and that's a really good word to use, underground. The cabinets that are visually above ground, all communications, but the cabinets above ground, I feel are about 4 feet high, 2 feet wide, and about 3 feet. So they are typical Charter, AT&T, Verizon Tech cabinets, everybody else sees that are out of sight. Our goal is out of sight, out of mind, because it won't be adopted. Yes, we have larger ones. I think for your community, I think we have 2, what we call the aggregation shelters. That is a 300-foot square box that sits on the perimeter. It doesn't sit outside someone's home. It's on the perimeter.
Those I'm good with. I'm good with those. Those I'm good with.
So are you opposed to the cabinets that are already in the community?
Well, the concern is what happens if one of the residents, I don't want that thing in front of my house. You got a 4 foot by 2 foot by whatever it is, 3 foot cabinet out of the ground that's going to be out into the right of way, out in somebody's tree belt. Am I correct? That's a big.
It depends. So the purpose of that is not to have it outside someone's window. We actually have a radius, so we can actually move each cabinet about 400 feet in every radius. But this is where we need to get to. We have no idea. Oh, that's something very unfair to say. We cannot confirm where all these locations will be until we get to the next phase. We actually cannot engineer the design until we have a set of standards to base the design on from a construction and location perspective.
Scott, why don't we do this? I don't want to belabor this point. I mean, I think
me too.
It's enough. Why don't we try to get in touch with each other, bring your engineers on board again, and maybe we can come to some sort of an agreement. But you can take this information back to the engineers, and this is what we're looking for. And I think it's safe to say if we get basically what we're looking for here, if we can work out these details, then we can move forward with the project. I mean, I'm concerned about, the micro trenching. Micro trenching is an issue. It's an issue. And if we can get by that, then I'm good with it. But again, I'm not trying to put this project to bed. I want to make sure that, you guys are taken care of and the city's taken care of, because I think once micro trenching goes away, once the infrastructure's in the ground, then you guys walk away. Then it becomes an issue for the city. And I don't want it to become an issue for the city. That's all I'm saying.
Indeed. And I agree with you. I would just say the last comment that we're not exactly walking away. Our amortization periods are 30 years long. So we're at least in your community for the next 30 years. But with that said, we don't want to leave with a point. There are many other conversations to be had. So let's reconnect after this, Commissioner, and let's see where we can take it.
Okay, great.
Yep.
Are we good? Okay, so you two will connect. Thank you, and back.
Mayor, I just wanted to say one thing, Mayor, that from our office standpoint, the assurance has been accepted. So that's our part of it.
Thank you, Commissioner. Back to you.
But I think there's still issues with it, though, Commissioner.
Okay, so you and Scott can work through that. Commissioner Madigan, I'm going to turn it back over to you.
Scott, I want to thank you for being here, and I do indeed hope that after this evening, we will still be partners. I'll follow up with you soon.
Thank you,
Scott. Thank you, Scott.
Thanks, Scott. Thank you.
All right. Let me just figure out where I'm at.
Number 3.
Okay. This is the discussion about the temporary hiring freeze. So there seems to be a lot of confusion, miscommunication regarding a temporary hiring freeze. That was the subject of a memo from Finance dated April 10th, 2020, with no fewer than 7 communications among Finance, HR, departments, and council beginning last spring. The memo has been raised in meetings and phone calls as we try to align the city budget with our diminished and changing revenues. The memo states that the new and replacement hires included in the 2020 budget would be frozen, and until the memo was rescinded, all hiring would be on an emergency basis, subject to council approval. We've had a few replacement hires brought to council via a vote, one by DPW and one by the mayor's office, but we have not been consistent with this. This year, in spite of our continued revenue challenges, there seemed to be a substantial number of replacement hires, including those which require substantial increases to hospitalization and retirement benefits. Our hospitalization lines are currently in danger of operating in the red. This has me concerned, and hiring exacerbates this issue. Although I know the budget director and the HR benefits coordinator is looking at this issue pretty much as we speak this week. Unfortunately, we're not a city that was allocated $50, $60, or $85 million in American Rescue Plan funds, like many of the communities around us. And at this time, we don't know enough about the American Rescue Plan funds and how and when they will be released. So I would like to ask this evening for the council to take a pause on hiring and replacement hires until we can get a better idea of how revenues are doing for us. I'd like to have a full quarter of actual sales tax revenue, more information about American Rescue Plan funds, more information coming on occupancy at SPAC and the race course. See what's going to happen with the Geyser Crest Trail, the Greenbelt Trail, Geyser Crest Road Trail, if we'll get that reimbursement, and also get an update on what we're doing with real property sales. Once revenues have evolved into future reliable amounts, the city can continue ahead with its goals and many of its initiatives. I am looking for council consensus, as I firmly believe that we all have the best interest of the city at heart, and it is all our fiduciary responsibility when we're operating with unknown fiscal resources and revenues. So to this end, I would like to revise this agenda item tonight to include a vote on asking the council and all departments to pause on hiring until June 15th, which is about 56 days. We've asked our employees to freeze their salaries, steps, and longevity. And for some people, that was a fairly significant, like $17,000 increase for many employees because of the step increase that certain employees get this year. It is a priority of mine to ensure that we can meet the obligation of paying our employees at year end. And as I've stated, we need more information about the American Rescue Plan funds, the track, SPAC, et cetera. I am doing this, trying to bring us to consensus, despite my belief that the finance commissioner, required under City Charter Section 4.4.8, can take remedial action to eliminate or reduce revenue shortfalls and has the right to establish a hiring pause. However, this is not the point that I want to continue to debate, but I would like to take a vote this evening. So with that, according to City Charter 2.2, City Council empowers to add this action item to my agenda. It was not included because it was an unexpected addition. This idea has evolved to me over the course of the day. It is time sensitive due to an immediate financial and employee concerns, as well as counterproductive confusion among the departments. This item has been revised to include a vote, discussion and vote, temporary hiring pause or freeze. So I would like to move that the City Council approve the revision of item number 3 on my agenda to include vote as follows: discussion and vote, temporary hiring pause. This is a motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? I'm voting no because I didn't know it was a discussion and vote, so I'm not prepared. So, any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
I was going to say something.
Okay, go ahead. Sure.
I'm sorry. Yeah, I don't think it's unreasonable. We needed our assessor's retiring. We are just starting to do the interview process, and I would have liked to have a kind of a cross-training assessor in May, especially since we're going into the grievance time and the lawsuits and whatever. But I don't think 6 or 8 or 10 weeks is that long of a time period. I think there's some timing issues that we have right now. I think that Commissioner Madigan brought up earlier on her agenda under the city finance that it's really going to be kind of hard to even do a cash flow over the next 60 to 90 days relating to when the stimulus comes in, and there's also somewhat handcuffed on the stimulus of what we can use the money for. We can't use it against the debt. And also June and late November are kind of our busy months for our large expenditures to the county. So, I think our department, everybody needs people, but, we definitely need somebody, but I don't think I think also by mid-June, we're going to have a better idea of what's going to happen with the track. I didn't even think of SPAC, the city center. I think we could make it that long without hiring anybody. So I wouldn't have a problem, if it's sunsetted at that point to bring it back in mid-June. It's not that long of a time period. I
just don't know if this is including part-time. I don't know anything about it,
I don't either. I don't either.
Well, my assumption, I don't know what it is either, but my assumption is a pause means on all hiring.
Well, right. So my recreation department doesn't hire. I mean, that doesn't work for us. So I'm not prepared. So I'm not going to vote on something that I'm not prepared to discuss.
Well, again, I think this is not my agenda item. I'm just telling you from my standpoint. I think I need somebody probably more than any department. I know you probably.
It's always somebody. Your priority is yours. My priority is mine. Everybody has their priorities. We went through this with Commissioner Madigan. We all know every department has their priorities. I fight like mad for my people. I need building inspectors. I know you need an assessor. I know that, everybody needs something,
I don't, yes, and you've gotten a lot, but that's not the point. What I'm saying is we need, wait. With all due respect, we can look at hiring counts over the year and it's not close.
Yeah, all your years. Yeah.
Go ahead, review it. It's not gonna be that hard. It's been the same number forever, but
it shows.
The city needs an assessor, but what I'm saying is, I'm sure you need people.
You were the assessor. It's an assistant assessor. And why do you need 8 months, 6 months? Really? You need 6 months to work in there? That's another story.
Yes, and I could go through that story, but you don't understand anything about assessing. So I won't get into that right now. I know. We're the do nothing group, but that's a whole separate issue. I'm just talking about, if you need if the recreation is going to open and there's certain part-time people that were needed, and that could be discussed, with the city council. That is, I don't look at that as a replacement. I look at that as that was the timing that these people were coming in. And I know each department, we need police. I know all of this. I'm talking about 15% of my office is one person. But what I'm saying is I just don't think it's a big ask to go a certain time period to find out more information at a time when cash flow, we don't know what the cash flow is going to be. That's just, like I said, that's just me.
No update from fire and police, or no one has asked the public safety commissioner or the commissioner of public works what the effect would be on essential services. I think it would be prudent for us all to wait on this vote. Otherwise, I will also be voting no.
Yeah, well, that's fine too. I mean, if it takes another meeting or a discussion, I have no issues with that. I'm just stating, I think that's better than just saying we're going to have a temporary freeze and not have a time period to it. I just think you have to.
I agree with you, Commissioner, but I'm just not prepared.
Well, it's not. This is not my agenda item. This is on the finance department.
Take it for whatever.
Yeah, well, I'm shocked, but what I'm saying is, I just think it makes more sense to have a time period and then we can revisit it, because the word temporary to one person may be 8 weeks, to somebody else may be 3 years. I mean, temporary is temporary. And I don't, every department should figure out, like Commissioner Dalton just said, I don't know what her needs are. I don't know what your needs are, Mayor. Everybody has different needs in public work. I'm just telling you, I think we all have needs, but I think it wouldn't be the end of the world if we could look at those needs to see if they could be pushed off for a certain time period. And if it's something like the rec opens outdoor, this or that, that makes sense. But I still think that's mostly into June anyways.
The rec is open and we're hiring as we speak. So just
I understand that, but there's different time periods where you hire more people or less people.
And we're in that process right now.
Yeah.
So we're in it. I mean,
right.
I'm pulling the item. You guys keep doing what you're doing. Don't ask me for any budget transfers. Don't ask me for any help if you haven't budgeted accordingly with your departments. That's where I'm at right now. We all have a fiduciary responsibility to the city. We don't know what's going on. I've told you over and over again, we are not receiving the kind of funding like other cities around us. We've borrowed $11.6 million. If this council wants to keep spending like there's no problems, and that is exactly what you're doing, go ahead.
Commissioner, I just want to say that, recreation, we have made budget neutral, and you're telling me that I can't hire people. I don't get it. I'm not prepared.
56. That's all I was trying to do. Screaming all that screechy little Robin's voice. Please be quiet. I mean, or go eat some of your candy in your office, okay?
All right, let's move on, please. If you're going to take a vote, all those in favor say aye.
The financial situation of the city.
I'm taking the vote. All those in favor say aye.
I pulled the item.
I didn't hear that. Okay, thank you. Can we move on?
I am not bringing it. Do what you want. Do not have
Can I make one quick comment?
On hiring. And
can I just make one quick
spending? Go ahead.
Can I make one quick comment?
Mm-hmm.
I was under the impression, Commissioner Madigan, that you were going to meet with everybody and find out what everybody's needs were. I haven't met with you yet. We have not talked about, what the needs of the Public Works Department are. And I would like to do that. And before you put something like this on the agenda, telling the different departments, mine in particular, if we can't hire anybody, you need to know what my needs are before you can, before.
I don't know why you haven't set up a meeting. We've had the meetings with all the departments.
I believe we do have a meeting set up, but it's after the fact. It's after.
Not to interrupt you, but it doesn't really matter because I
understand what you're saying. This is my agenda.
Okay, can I just ask, it's Commissioner Madigan is speaking, so can we let her speak?
So I agree with you, Commissioner Scirocco. I just assumed, because you have not had a meeting, that you didn't have any other priorities. I have a list of all the priorities from the various departments. Unfortunately, at this time, I can't fulfill them. I had hoped to, but I can't. And I can't even get us to take a pause on hiring. The item was just to add the item to my agenda. That was the vote. And then I was going to explain what it meant if we could add the item to the agenda, but it hasn't been added. So it's fine with me. You guys go do what you want,
Well, I thought that was your discussion, Commissioner. I thought you were going to explain it to us.
No, I
thought you were going to do. Whatever.
I'm apparently not allowed to discuss. So I just have to say, I take such offense to the comments you've made towards me tonight, Commissioner Madigan. I have just as much of a voice as everyone else in this council, and making comments like I should stop talking and go eat candy in my office is so unprofessional and so emblematic of all of the problems we have in the city government. So,
okay, can we move on, please, Commissioner Madigan? Thank you.
Item number 4 is a discussion and vote. Authorization for the mayor to sign a memorandum of understanding. You know what? I'm just going to pull that item too. And item number 5, discussion and vote. Authorization for the mayor to sign agreement with Crown Castle Fiber LLC for Ethernet services. This is an update to the IT agreement for Ethernet services for the Recreation Center. I move that the City Council authorize the mayor to sign agreement with Crown Castle Fiber LLC for Ethernet services as included with the agenda. This is a motion.
Is there a second? Second. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? The matter passes.
Item number 7 is a discussion and vote. Sale of metal shelving owned by the City of Wilton Fire District number 1, Greenfield Fire District. This shelving that we want to sell is no longer being used by the city. The Greenfield Fire District will be using the shelving for a public purpose. The shelving is in used condition, and they will pay $450 to the city. I move that the City Council approve the sale of metal shelving owned by the City of Wilton Fire District number 1, Greenfield Fire District, as included with the agenda. This is a motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The matter passes.
I am also pulling my item number 8 and my item number 9. And that will complete my agenda. Thank you.
Okay.
There will be no part-time hires. We didn't do the transfer for them. Thank you.
Well, we did a transfer, but you just pulled it, so that's your retaliation. So I
No,
don't get that either. So
no vote.
that's a bunch of bunk. I don't even want to discuss it. Let's go on. Let's go on to Public Works.
Not bringing any transfers anymore.
Let's please, Commissioner Madigan, we're done. On to Public Works. Commissioner Scirocco.
Thank you, Mayor. My first item is an announcement. This is an update on a tree. Saratoga Springs is a city rich in culture and history. The residents and the city government are proud of that history, and preserving the history is an important responsibility and priority. Old pictures of Broadway will show that it was once lined with towering, majestic American elm trees. And in the mid-20th century, the majority of those elm trees succumbed to the Dutch elm disease and were lost, changing the character of Broadway forever. Miraculously, several of these ancients survived the Dutch elm disease epidemic and still stand on the edges of Broadway today. They are treated by DPW employees with systemic fungicide to hold the disease at bay for as long as those trees are standing. Unfortunately, as trees age, their immunity to disease weakens, just like any of us, and no amount of medicine can sufficiently fight the infection. This has recently become the case with the large American elm tree, which stands near the corner of North Broadway and Van Dam Street. The elm was quickly treated by DPW staff after being alerted that the tree was losing leaves in late summer, well, before the typical autumn leaf drop season. Samples were taken from the specimen and delivered to Cornell Cooperative Extension for testing at their diagnosis lab. Results came back negative for Dutch elm disease, but positive for anthracnose, another fungal disease which disrupts the vascular flow of nutrients throughout the specific branches, or throughout the tree. Cornell stated that they could not rule out Dutch elm disease because the specific branches taken as samples had not been infected yet. The tree was then monitored by DPW city arborist in hopes that the treatment worked and the tree would begin to leaf out this spring. Unfortunately, no buds have begun to bloom, and a core sample of the trunk tissue did not have any sign of healthy living tissue. Therefore, the large elm will have to be removed, both for the safety of the public and to protect the other legacy elm trees from also contracting Dutch elm disease, which is spread by beetles that will be hatching from the elm tree and traveling to other elms within the month of April. These beetles carry the disease from one tree to the next. The DPW, with support from Sustainable Saratoga, has begun planning the removal, which will affect traffic patterns at the intersection. DPW is also purchasing more systemic fungicide to be injected with recently acquired state-of-the-art plant healthcare tools to proactively administer the treatment for protection of the plant healthcare tools to proactively administer the treatment for protection of the certified arborists, the last legacy American elms left in the city. With the expertise of the city's ISA certified arborists, DPW certified pesticide applicators, and urban forestry volunteers at Sustainable Saratoga, we are confident that the remaining elms will stand for many more days to come. And I just wanted to say a little bit about that tree because, again, it's one of the oldest elm trees on Broadway, and I think just to kind of calm any concerns that some of the residents might have when they see us taking it down. It's going to be a big operation because we have to rent a crane to do it. It's a big tree, but our guys can do it. So, but I just wanted to just make the public aware.
Great, thank you, Commissioner.
Yep. Second item on my agenda, discussion vote. This is approval to reimburse employee number 2675 in the amount of $230. This reimbursement for employee number 2675 in the amount of $230 for the arbor certification renewal from the International Society of Arboriculture. Well, I guess that's the word. I don't know. Reimbursement exceeded the 30-day submission for the purchasing policy. Therefore, I move to reimburse employee number 2675 in the amount of $230 for the arbor certification renewal, and I put that in the form of a motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The matter passes.
Third item on my agenda is discussion and vote. This is approval to reimburse employee number 278 in the amount of $324.50. This reimbursement for employee number 278 in the amount of $324.50 is for instrumentation and control course high-tech operator courses for the water treatment plant. The reimbursement exceeded the 30-day submission for the purchasing policy. Therefore, I move for the approval to reimburse employee number 278 in $324.50 for the instrumentation and control course and high-tech operator courses, and I put that in form of a motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? The matter passes.
Fourth item on my agenda is discussion and vote, authorization for the mayor to sign a contract with Environmental Soil Management of New York, LLC for $264.20. Every other year, DPW hires a vendor to burn hazardous waste collected at the DPW garage. The material is classified as non-hazardous, but may contain petroleum-based residuals, oil, grease, etc., washed from vehicles and equipment that require proper disposal. Typically, a vendor service agreement would be in place. Environmental Soil Management of New York, LLC, DBA, ESMI, a Clean Earth company, requested language changes to the insurance in our vendor service agreement. Risk and Safety denied the request and instead, along with the help of the city attorney, made the appropriate changes in the city contract. A red line version along with the signed copy has been previously distributed with the agenda. I'll be asking the council to approve the red line version contract with ESMI along with an estimated cost of $264.25. Therefore, I move for the mayor to sign the amended contract with Environmental Soil Management of New York, LLC, not to exceed the amount of $264.24 or 25 cents, and I put that in form of a motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The matter passes.
Fifth item on my agenda is a discussion and vote. This is authorization for the mayor to sign change order number 15 with DLC Electric LLC in the amount of $7,343. This change order is part of the City Hall renovation and restoration project for the electrical contractor. DLC will provide additional lighting options in the IT and finance commissioner's offices, add a floor box circuit for IT, and provide additional floor boxes at a data jack in occupied spaces. This change order of $7,343 represents a request for the finance portion of the project. And again, I don't know if Commissioner Matting would like to offer any input during.
I don't really have anything to say. I forgot this was on the agenda this evening. Okay. But IT needs its own. They're blowing fuses, which is affecting the server. Right. And we don't have proper lighting in the office at this point in time.
Okay. All right. So therefore, I move for the mayor to sign a contract to sign change order number 15 with DLC LLC for power and lighting in the finance area in the amount of $7,343, and I put that in form of a motion.
Is there a second? Second. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? The matter passes.
Sixth item on my agenda is discussion and vote. This is approval to pay invoice number 12467 to MLB in the amount of $4,208.31. The MLB invoice number 12467 is a total cost of $4,208.31. The following invoice is for rental containers used for storing and keeping City Hall Department's contents during the restoration/renovation project. The project was closed. This was an outstanding invoice. Therefore, I move for the approval to pay invoice number 12467 to MLB in the amount of $4,208.31 for storage container rentals for the City Hall restoration project, and I put that in form of a motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? The matter passes.
I'm gonna skip over an announcement on number 7. We're not ready for that yet.
Okay.
I'm gonna go to number 8 on my agenda. Announcement for milling and paving schedule. On Monday, May 10th, we will mill Stratton Street from White Street to Lincoln Avenue. We'll mill Ludlow Street from Union Avenue to Fifth Avenue. On Tuesday, May 11th, we'll mill Lincoln Avenue, Nelson Avenue intersection to Frank Sullivan Place past Cyril's Restaurant. We'll mill Nelson Avenue from 81 Nelson Avenue to 37 Nelson Avenue. On Wednesday, May 12th, we'll pave Stratton Street from White Street to Lincoln Avenue. We'll pave Ludlow Street from Union Avenue to Fifth Avenue. And on Thursday, May 13th, we'll pave Lincoln Avenue, Nelson Avenue intersection to Frank Sullivan Place past Cyril's Restaurant. We will pave Nelson Avenue from 81 Nelson Avenue to 37 Nelson Avenue. And then more information can be found on the city's website for that one. My ninth item on the agenda is a proclamation, and this is the City of Saratoga Springs Arbor Day. And I'll read the proclamation. This is a proclamation of the City of Saratoga Springs, New York, whereas for more than a century, Arbor Day and Arbor Week celebrations have been held in communities across the United States. Principles of forestry, conservation, and environmental responsibility are an important part of our nation's heritage. And whereas the preservation of trees and forests is an issue of great concern to all of us, we in Saratoga Springs can be especially proud of the majestic elm trees that graced our city streets in great numbers during the 19th and early 20th centuries. Today, the city's Department of Public Works maintains a partnership with Sustainable Saratoga Tree-toga planting program. We are proud to confirm anew our commitment to conserve, maintain, repair, and restore our trees, and to recognize them as part of what makes our city a unique and special place. Now, therefore, I, Anthony Skip-Scirocco, Commissioner of Public Works, Department of Public Works with the City of Saratoga Springs, am pleased to join with my colleagues on the City Council and all my fellow Saratogans proclaiming the week of April 24th to the April 30th, 2021 as Arbor Day celebrations.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you. Item number 10 is discussion and vote to accept a donation from Sustainable Saratoga for trees. The City of Saratoga Springs will be accepting a donation of trees to be planted on a city property from Sustainable Saratoga. The value of their total gift may be up to $3,500. The trees that will be donated will be planted in prominent locations within the City of Saratoga Springs at different dates during the year. The first date will be April 25th for Tree-toga 10. We expect that Sustainable Saratoga's tree donations will be an ongoing program for years to come. Therefore, I move to authorize the City Council to accept a donation of trees from Sustainable Saratoga in the valued amount up to $3,500, and I put that in a form of motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The matter passes.
And I'm going to take the announcement off on number 11. We're not going to talk about that.
That's a discussion and vote. You're taking that off?
No, that's not a discussion. That's an announcement.
Okay.
Number 11.
No. Oh, okay.
Okay, and I'm going to add an item to my agenda. A discussion and vote authorization for the mayor to sign a lease agreement with Nargle Paint Studio INC for one-day rental of 50 parking spaces in Woodlawn Avenue parking garage, and that's an amount of $500.
Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed?
Aye.
The matter passes.
Discussion and vote authorization for the mayor to sign a lease agreement with Nargle Paint Studio Incorporated for one-day rental of 50 parking spaces in Woodlawn Avenue parking garage in the amount of $500. Nargle Paint Studio has requested to rent approximately 50 personal passenger vehicle parking spaces in the upper deck of Woodlawn parking garage on April 22nd, 2021. The daily rental amount will be $10 per space from 5 a.m. to 9 p.m. The total amount to be paid to the city will be $500. Therefore, I move for the mayor to sign a lease agreement with Nargle Paint Studio Incorporated for one-day rental of 50 parking spaces in Woodlawn Avenue parking garage in the amount of $500, and put that in form of motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Commissioner, what is this? Is this? I'm a little confused.
It's a movie production company.
Oh, okay.
Parking
okay,
for the
I got
movie.
it. I got
Yes.
it. Yep.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The matter passes. Thank you.
And that concludes my agenda, Mayor.
Thank you, Commissioner. Let's go on to public safety.
Thank you, Mayor. The first item on my agenda is discussion and vote to amend Chapter 225, Section 225-81 of the City Code. This is to prohibit parking on both sides of Adams Road between Katy Hill Boulevard and Marcel Drive. I make a motion to amend Chapter 225, Section 225-81 of the City's Code, Schedule 16, parking prohibited at all times from Adams Roads, both sides between Katy Hill Boulevard and Marcel Drive. This is a motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 And any opposed? The matter passes.
Thank you. The second item on my agenda is discussion and vote, Chapter 225, Section 225-94 of the City Code. This is to add alternate side of the street parking on Clinton Street from Vermont Street to Church Street. I make a motion to amend Chapter 225-94, Schedule 29 of the City Code, alternate side of the street parking, parking prohibited at all times, Clinton Street from Vermont Street to Church Street, Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, parking on west side of the street only. This is a motion.
Is there a second? Second. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? The matter passes.
Thank you. The third item on my agenda is an appointment of a city health officer. I'm very pleased to announce that I'm appointing Dr. Michael Holland as the new city health officer. I also want to thank Dr. Timothy Brooks for serving as the city's medical director for nearly 20 years and serving as a city health officer since 2014. My sincere thanks for his service to our city. The fourth item is authorization.
Can I comment?
Yes, absolutely.
I want to comment on a couple of things. Dr. Holland is a terrific choice, and thank you for having him on the team. My other question is, in the contract with them, can we utilize them as a city for like an emergency like COVID, so they could be our communicator?
Yes.
So that would be terrific if you could add that, Commissioner, because he's a great guy. He's helped us a lot at the city level with COVID, and he's educated us all. So I appreciate it.
Explicitly talked about when I talked to him about taking this appointment. If he could gather data for us, if we needed to update the city, whether it had to do with the pandemic or another health issue,
right.
Also whether or not he could be a representative for the city when it came to issues like what we're dealing with now at a county level and represent our voice, and also with the medical background he has, represent our needs or communicate back and forth. So
that's great. Thank you. That's a great choice. Thank you.
Thank you. The fourth item on my agenda is authorization for the mayor to sign a contract with Empire Ambulance. This is an annual contract for backup ambulance service for the city. The monthly rent they pay is $3,000 per month. I make a motion to authorize the mayor to sign a contract with Empire Ambulance. This is a motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The matter passes.
Thank you. The last item is not the last item, second to last item is a discussion and vote to accept donations for the SFD K9 unit. This is a really happy one. The police department has received many more donations since the news of Martin Hardy and Mazzotti donating the police K9. And I wanted to acknowledge all of the people who donated briefly before we vote to accept their donations. The donations are earmarked specifically for the K9 unit to purchase such things as another K9 to replace the second retiring K9, equipment, building a training area so we can train in-house and only have to travel 1 or 2 times a year for state certifications. Additional maintenance, training, and other K9 related issues are not covered by the budget. So I ask the City Council accept the K9 donations, but that they be placed in the K9 donation line. The donations are from Christina Mastriani Morris, Michael Billock and Patricia McGovern, Eric and Carrie Cushing, Crescent Hill Partners, Matthew Jones, Cliff and Claudia Van Wagner, Susanna Allardyce, Bogosian Brothers, Wesley Healthcare Center, 519 Broadway, Storks and the Dake family, the Adirondack Trust Company, the Business for Good Foundation. And the total amount of the donations is $27,400. And so I just want to thank all of those individuals and organizations for donating to our K9 unit. It's just a phenomenal outpouring of support.
That's amazing. That's great.
This is a motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? I thank them all too. That's an amazing amount of donations. So that's terrific for our K9 unit.
Really, really awesome.
Yep. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The matter passes.
The last item on my agenda is to set a public hearing to amend Chapter 225, Section 225-81 of the City Code, Schedule 29, parking prohibited at all times on Crescent Street. This is to prohibit parking at all times on the south side of Crescent Street between South Broadway and Joshua Road. And this was specifically brought to our attention as it pertains to the dog park there, to make sure that it is safe for pedestrians and the neighborhood and people, driving and using the dog park. So I'm asking that we set that public hearing for our next council meeting if possible.
We can do that on May 4th at 6:55.
Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you. And that concludes my agenda.
Thank you, Commissioner. Let's turn it right over to Supervisor Beach.
Thank you, Mayor. First on my agenda is just a quick announcement on the Geyser Road repaving. Geyser Road is one of our county roads located in the city. And the signs have just gone up recently that there's going to be some road work happening there, starting actually, the date says today, but they actually didn't do anything today. But I did talk to the commissioner of DPW at the county, and he mentioned that they're going to be prepping the roadway very soon. Resurfacing will be occurring later in this month and mostly through next month. And he's expecting, although it's not a permanent date, that completion of the road would be done near the end of May. So as we open the Geyser Road Trail, we're going to also repave Geyser Road with some new fresh pavement on the roadway side. So just stay advised that would be occurring later this spring. Second on my agenda is just a quick note to mention that the county accepted some additional funding today for the Stop DWI program. The Stop DWI program is mainly funded by DWI fines that we collect at the court system. And again, just to mention, I do bring this up sometimes from time to time that after the county sheriff, the city police department gets the most Stop DWI assistance among the county's law enforcement departments. And I think they do a good job of enforcing that using that funding. So just wanted to mention that we accepted some extra funding for that today and continuing to fund a good program. And last on my agenda is just to mention that the county is going to be taking part in this New York State's new deer hunting pilot program. And today we set a public hearing for a local law that the county has to pass. And the public hearing is set for May 18th at 3:30 p.m. Before the board meeting. And what this is it's a new state opt-in for counties in an initiative to expand youth hunting opportunities to 12 and 13-year-olds. Currently, the minimum age to hunt in New York State is 14. And many other states have a younger age, and the state legislature passed a law that said that counties can opt in for a pilot program to introduce it to 12 and 13-year-olds. And it's for crossbow, rifle, shotgun, and muzzle loading. And the key is that these youngsters must be accompanied by a parent, legal guardian, or mentor to oversee their hunting. So we're the first county in New York State to set up this public hearing and enact the local law, as it is a new statewide program which allows for the opt-in of the pilot program. And again, there is a public hearing scheduled at the county for May 18th at 3:30 p.m. Before the board meeting. And again, I know it may not be as big of a issue in the city of Saratoga Springs, but throughout the county, there certainly appears to be some support for this in some of our other towns that we have in Saratoga County. So that is that agenda item. And I just want to mention one last thing before I'm done. I want to thank Mayor Kelly for holding the Geyser Road Trail opening this week. I will be out of town, so I won't be there for that later.
That's a bummer.
Yeah. So as a person in the neighborhood who lives nearby and has spent a lot of time working on this, I want to thank you again for getting it over the finish line and getting it done. It looks great out there. I've ridden it several times. It's fantastic. So very much appreciate everything that everybody has done on this over the years. So with that concludes my agenda, and thank you.
I thank you too, Supervisor. I know you have been over the years, however many years you've been working on it, but it's been a lot. And so I'm just a little bit disappointed that you won't be there. So thank you for your kind words.
Yeah, I just want to say the first time I met Matt was on the trail back in 2006. He came into the accounts office in 2006, was saying that we want to do this trail. So that was the first time I met him.
That's
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Supervisor Gaston.
Thank you, Mayor. The first item on my agenda is just a quick COVID-19 update. Our positivity rate is coming down a little bit. It was well over 3% for a while, so that's good. It is important, especially as we enter prom, graduation, and summer season, to continue to stay vigilant. Our vaccination rate in the county is excellent, so I appreciate all residents for working on that. As of right now, over 60% of individuals over the age of 18 have been vaccinated, and we're working very quickly to accomplish that in those who are 16 and 17. There have been a number of vaccination clinics in Saratoga County specifically for 16 and 17-year-olds, and there are a few the rest of this week and this weekend. If a student is interested, they should reach out to their school. Some of them are being held closed at particular schools, and so they should get that information. If not, feel free to reach out to myself or the public health department and we'll connect you, because vaccination is the best and safest way to reach herd immunity. We are starting to see some signs of vaccine hesitancy, which is not ideal. So let's just all keep going and encouraging. And if you do know of a particular population that either has concerns or has issues with outreach, please let us know, because we're working to solve those problems and get access as best we can. On a related note, the second item on my agenda is regarding the public health expansion. This is a program that's been many years in the works, and it will be with the county expanding our public health department to a full service Department of Health, taking on many environmental health services such as restaurant and camp inspections, lead and tobacco prevention, et cetera. Right now, those are handled by the New York State office in Glens Falls, so this will be much closer to home and hopefully easier for our municipalities and businesses to use. Since January, we've taken a number of steps, including hiring personnel such as epidemiologists. Today, we passed a resolution authorizing the hiring of a law firm that will help us with the regulatory issues. Saratoga County will be the first county in New York State in approximately 20 years to undergo this transition. So many of the people who have shepherded this before are no longer working in government. We will have an advisory committee that will include myself, another supervisor, our commissioner of health, and some individuals who previously have worked in government and are willing to lend us their assistance so that we can get this done quickly and efficiently. Part of this, I will be reaching out to each of the commissioners and the mayor to schedule meetings, because part of this is an internal process, hiring and developing programs, and part of it is a small p political process. So the city has the ability to opt out of the county's health department if they choose, and develop and maintain their own local health department. The city can choose to do that or not, but it does require a vote of the council in order to include in that. And so I want to make sure that any questions or concerns from the city are met, and that we can give you the information that you need in order to vote on that in an informed way. If the city does opt in, the County Board of Health that will be instituted at that time will have a voting representative from the city in particular. Right now, the Board of Supervisors serves as the Board of Health for the county. And in this case, there will be 9 members, and one of them will be a representative. The city will select 3 names, and the Board of Supervisors will vote on that one. So I will be reaching out to each of you. If you don't have any questions, that's fine, but I want to make sure that any questions or concerns you have, I can meet. The last item on my agenda is today, I was thrilled, along with other Saratoga County officials, to announce the Saratoga County Women in Government Leadership Program. On Monday, our application process will be live, and high school aged young women from around the county are going to be able to apply in order to join our summer program with the Seroptimus International of Saratoga County. They will learn about leadership skills, how government works, their career goals, and they will also obtain mentors in the county, learn more about the opportunities available to them, and we'll have a little bit of fun. One of the examples I gave today was the first woman elected in Saratoga County. There was a fist fight at a gas station involved. So we'll get to learn a little bit about the history of the county. We were honored to have representatives or remarks from Senator Tedesco, Senator Jordan, Assemblywoman Walsh, as well as Lieutenant Governor Kathy Hochul. And in addition, we also had Marty Sauerbrei, who is the current president of the Women's Leadership Council from the New York State Association of Counties and incoming NYSAC president. So you can look for that application Residents of Saratoga Springs, their applications will be stripped of personal information and sent to Supervisor Beach and myself to make selections. And the video of that's up on my Facebook and on the county's Facebook and YouTube as well. And that concludes my agenda.
Thank you, Supervisor.
Gaston, is that something you set up, the Saratoga County Women in Government Leadership Program? Like,
yes.
With?
We are actually the first county in New York State to do this. This is one reason NYSAC is excited to work with us. We are hoping to use it as a pilot to be extended across the state.
Well, it's just excellent. Kudos to you. I hope you get a lot of good feedback from this program.
Me too. Fingers crossed. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other business from the council? And we are adjourned. Thank you and good night.
Thank you.
Public Affairs programming on Look TV is underwritten by the generous support of Pinnell's Restaurant, classic Italian American food since 1922, and Stored Tech, technology solutions for computers, networks, and phone. Stored Tech, your technology, our passion.
1922, Babe Ruth debuts with the Yankees. WGY signs on air. Exterminator wins the Saratoga Cup, and Pinnell's Restaurant opens its doors for the very first time. For 5 generations, Pinnell's has been preparing delicious Italian food, served in a comfortable, home-like setting where everyone is welcome. 90 years of authentic Italian recipes, 90 years of the freshest ingredients, and 90 years of the finest classic Italian dishes, all made daily by hand. Pinnell's Italian Restaurant, a Saratoga dining tradition since 1922.
Most cybersecurity firms deal only with prevention, the systems that block hackers and viruses. Stored Tech knows the root cause is actually good people doing bad things. So we offer a security training program which includes certifying all participants to show they understand the basics.
Technology solutions for computers, networks, and phones. Stored Tech, your technology, our passion.